People think breakups happen suddenly, as if it's one catastrophic event, but they usually don't. Usually there's huge buildup before that blow up. Things erode one disrespectful comment at a time, one toxic argument at a time, one lie at a time, a broken promise here and there. The sexual relationship declines. You have moments of weakness, avoidance, blame, and these things just start to add up. And here's the truth that no one wants to admit: most relationships fail because there's no frame. The man isn't leading, and the woman isn't supporting him to lead. So nobody's setting the rules. Nobody is establishing the standards or the goals or the vision for the relationship. So what happens? Two people walk into a relationship with all the little good feelings and all that stuff and all the hope, but there's no structure for moving forward. They have that initial chemistry, but there's no clarity as to what they're doing together or where they're going or what their values are. And there's no boundaries, even though there's a bunch of emotions, which can be a recipe for disaster. And there's that initial desire, but there's no clear sexual standards. So what happens when the newness wears off with the sexual standards in a relationship? And nobody knows. So then what happens? It blows up and everybody wonders why that happened. But, I've been coaching for a long time, thousands of people at this point. It's not a mystery to me as to why it blows up. I mean, you see the patterns. It's not really rocket science. It's just pretty easy to figure out why it blows up after asking a few questions and recognizing that some key things were never put in place to begin with. So of course, it's destined to blow up. That's what's going to happen, right? If you don't have these things in place. So the bottom line is you have to have frame as a man. You have to lead your relationship. Otherwise, there is no relationship. All right. So earlier this week, I had a very smart, intelligent client ask me the other day this question: what are some universal frameworks that every relationship needs in order for it to do well, in order for it to be successful? So what are some universal non-negotiable standards that you need to have as a man and that you need to enforce in your relationship in order for it to work out? And I thought this was a great question. I talk about frame all the time, and I talk about these items individually. If you've been following me for a while, for those of you guys who are in my coaching programs, for those of you guys who are in my community, you see the stuff pop up. So I always kind of assume, because it's stuff I talk about, that people sort of know it. But, sometimes I get a good question like that, and it enlightens me to the fact that just because I'm talking about it all the time, it doesn't mean you guys are listening to me all the time, right? Of course, which is totally fine. You got other things to do. And so it's nice to have a good comprehensive sort of list of some things. It was a very easy list for me to come up with. I mean, this is maybe a couple of days ago, I think. Maybe it might have been yesterday, actually. I don't remember. But it was like within the last 48 hours, I had this question and I was like, cool, here's the list and let's do a stream on it. Like, it was a very easy thing for me to breach. And I realized it was something I really needed to breach for you guys. You guys need the list, I think in the title, I put 14. I'll change that later. It's 13. I rolled 2 ideas into one idea. So it's really about 13 non-negotiable frameworks, the things that you need to have as a standard in your relationship, or it's just not going to go well. It's not going to work. It's not going to be successful. Okay. So without these 13 things, I rolled 2 up into 1. So the title says 14, but you're going to get 13. Okay. This is what's going to make it last. This is what's going to make it do well. All right. And it amazes me how these things are missing most of the time. Like, they're all the time missing, all the time. And this is why they don't succeed. You know what I mean? This is why you don't succeed. So this will be a very valuable stream. Okay. And this isn't going to be a dumb list. Okay. A dumb internet list, like no girls' nights out or she cooks and cleans for you, or okay. Like, It's not that girls' night out isn't a thing to address, right? It's not that like does she do things for you like cooking and cleaning? Like that's a thing to talk about. But it's a dumb thing, right? It's a dumb list because it's not that these aren't interesting for the discussion, but they do little to establish your frame. Okay. How you feel about a girl's night out and what that means to her, what that means to you, it doesn't establish your frame. All right. It's something to talk about and deal with. But guess what? Very easy to deal with when you have frame established. When you don't have frame established, then you end up bantering and debating on whether or not a girl's night out is okay and what constitutes a girl's night out. And you know what? And it's it ends up being pretty useless. You end up being the insecure guy. This is what happens. You listen to some red pill thing about no girls' nights out. Again, no offense to those content creators because it's an interesting discussion. Okay, and they impart some lessons, so it's not bad to talk about, but you listen to that, and then your girlfriend's like, I'm going to go out with my girlfriends. And then you're like, girls' night out, you know, and then you're like, oh, we need to talk about that, blah. And then what it just ends up happening is you end up bargaining with your girl, and she goes out anyway, and you end up looking like an insecure idiot. Like that's what happens to most of you guys. Most of you guys aren't like, you're going to this girl's night out, I'm breaking up with you. And those of you who do that, that usually makes you look like an idiot too. And the reason why is because you don't have frame established to begin with. There is no girls' night out debate with your girl when you have frame established. When you have these 13 items I'm going to share with you, there is no issue with a girls' night out because she's not going to do things to violate things like respect, sexual fidelity. You know, she's not going to go do dumb things with her girlfriends. If her girlfriends are doing dumb things on a girl night out, she's going to say, no, thank you. I'll stay home with my guy or I'll go do something else. If she goes out or meets up with girls, it's for dinner. It's going to somebody's house and hanging out. It's, you know what I mean? Watching Love Island with her girls or some dumb show or whatever that girls watch, right? Just watching train wrecks on TV. They love that shit. It's going to be pretty innocuous. It's not going out and get wasted and trolling for penis. You know what I mean? You don't have this struggle or this problem when you have frame. And these little nuances or ideas like, does she cook for you? Like that's not even an issue. You know what I mean? Like, of course she does. Or she does, or you're a better cook and you do a lot of the cooking, but then she cleans up and does other stuff. Like it's not an issue when you have frame. All right. So this isn't going to be a dumb list. This is a lot of that stuff is clickbait bullshit anyway. And it really doesn't do anything to you pragmatically to establish frame. It doesn't really do anything for you. Okay. So this is going to actually do something for you. It's going to give you a pragmatic standard to help you establish frame in your relationships. I'm surprised I haven't done this video earlier. Thanks again to my client who's asked the question. I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't have anything like that out there. When it's because to me it's just obvious. But as I went through the list, though, I realized it's not obvious. To me, it's obvious, but to you, it's not. There's going to be things on this list where you're going to go, oh shit, that you know what? I see where I made that mistake before. Or I see where my relationship right now doesn't have that. That's something I need to work on. It needs to get fixed because that's why we're failing. So it's going to be like a lot of light bulb moments, I think, today for a lot of you guys. All right. I mean, yeah, sure. These standards I'm going to go over, there's a lot of them are simple and a lot of them are common sense, but people do violate them all the time. And the reason why we violate them, even though they seem like they should be common sense, you're going to realize it's not when we go through it because we're actually instinctually designed as human beings to blow up our relationships after a few years rather than stay in them. It's true. We know it's true because otherwise we would have more long-term relationships being successful. And we wouldn't have to do so much work to make a long-term relationship successful. Now, I'm all for long-term relationships. It's nothing, I mean, my opinion, that's your best avenue for success is to have a good, healthy, long-term relationship. And that success carries over not to just your sexual life and your love life, but it carries over into your other areas of life. It's much easier to be successful in your purpose, in your vocation, at work, financially, health, all these things. It's much easier to do that with a healthy, supportive relationship. Now, if you have a shitty relationship, then it's harder to do that. It's better for you to be single than to be in a bad relationship that's going to take away your ability to do all those other things. But a good relationship with good solid frame elevates you and makes these other things easier and better. That's how that's supposed to go. Okay. And so yeah, this is like what happens is, though, we're just instinctually not prepared for this. All right. So maintaining these standards is going to require for you to redirect that mammalian brain drive into productive areas. Right. It's going to demand that you show strength as a man. It's going to demand your leadership as a man. It's going to demand your accountability and her accountability as well. It's going to demand that you stop negotiating with behavior that destroys connection. Okay. And so if you've ever been cheated on, if you've ever been disrespected, if you've ever been in a relationship that lost its passion and the sex dries up, whatever, if you ever felt like you were the one doing all the work and this person doesn't appreciate you, if you ever felt like you were being gaslit and lied to and manipulated, if you ever felt like you were just chasing somebody who didn't value you, well, you're about to understand why and where you lacked in frame in the first place for those things to have happened, right? So this is a good thing, right? And more importantly than just figuring out where you lacked frame, I'm going to show you how to fix it. And I'm going to do all that for you today. So this is going to be a valuable stream for you guys. So stick with me, all right? And once you understand these rules or standards, you won't look at relationships the same way again. You won't settle for the old stuff, the old BS, the old chaos, the old accepting disrespect and accepting bad behavior from women, right? And for those few women that are listening, you're not going to accept poor leadership, a lack of masculinity, and a bad behavior from the men you're with. That's like for the 5 women that listen to me, right? Because this one is one of those streams. It goes both ways. Okay, this does a little bit. So you're going to start leading with clarity, confidence, and standards. That's what you're going to do. This is going to help you. Okay. Now, the people who can't meet these standards, right? They'll eliminate themselves out of your life. All right. They're already doing that, hopefully now. Okay. But when you have these standards, if a woman can't meet them, she'll disqualify herself and it'll open you up for better relationships. It's a good thing. Okay. Now, if you go through that and it's painful because you have to break up with somebody because you realize their standards, this may be like a turning the corner moment for you. Some of you watching this, you're in a relationship and the girl you're with for however many couple of years is not meeting these standards, can't meet these standards, won't meet these standards, will not, just won't do it. You're going to watch the stream. You're going to know you need to break up with her. That's painful, right? Well, guess what I have for free in my community? It's a course that I could have charged some good money for, probably about an $800 course by market value. I'm giving it to you. It's how to process loss, how to process a breakup. Give it to you for free for being in the community. Why do I do that? I do that because I'm not trying to capitalize financially on your pain. I'm trying to get you to a better place so we can get you successful. I would rather work with you. I'll work with you, of course, if you want coaching or counseling through pain and through a breakup. I can actually absolutely help you sort that out. Even if maybe it's trouble in a breakup and you're trying to get her back, I can help you sort that out too. Okay. Those are things I can do, but I'm not trying to profit off of your misery. All right. What I want to do is get you guys in a place where you're doing well. Okay. And when you're doing well, then I'll be able to coach you to do even better, so to really reach, be one of the few guys that is doing really well and having a lot of value for yourself and a lot of value in your life. So that's what I would rather do, which is why I give that away. Plus, my experience in the military, I've experienced a lot of guys have taken their own lives and meant in it, or have succumbed to drug use, which involved their lives being taken. Much of that, I think, was intentional, and what was always behind that was a loss of a relationship or relationship problems. So, and one thing that is a challenge for people who struggle with trauma or PTSD is being able to process through those emotions. Being able, so PTSD or trauma, okay, whether it's something from childhood, whether it's going to combat, whether it's having an abusive relationship, dealing with a loss, like all these things that both men and women struggle with, right? These traumas make it harder for you to process loss and attachment. So somebody who's experienced a lot of trauma can have attachment problems. Do you know what I mean? Either avoidant, and I'm not trying to make attachment theory like the predominant thing, but they can do these avoidant types of behaviors and destroy the relationships that way, or they can be hyper attached. And then when they lose somebody, they it's like another trauma for them. They struggle with processing through that loss. You can't process through loss very well when you have like a PTSD sort of condition, right? And so for free, there's a course there that will teach you and help you train your brain to process through the loss. Man, I mean, I don't know what else to say about it. It's free. It's going to prevent more people would watch that and do that when they're dealing with their struggles with loss, with their, whether it's a death in the family or whether it's a relationship loss. There would be a lot less people making a decision they can't take back, like harming themselves, drug use, taking their own lives, things like that. Right. And so that's why I do it. It's a way to sort of give back, but you have to do it. You got to join the community. You have to go to the classroom. You have to open up the course. You got to watch the material, and then you have to execute the exercises in the material. It's very valuable for any of you guys who've experienced that. Even if you're not actively experiencing it now, it's valuable to go backwards to use some of those tools in order to help process things that maybe you didn't process. Okay, so I'd say that course is more valuable than most therapy sessions, particularly with incompetent therapists. I mean, there are really good therapists out there too, but most, it's going to be better for you for that. Okay, take a pause here to look at my chats. We got some chats here, and then we're going to get into some things. I don't know what's wrong with you and that question. So we're going to skip that. You're in timeout for that. That's a stupid question. All right. So thanks, man. Hey, I appreciate it. We'll put that up there, a little super. I appreciate that, dude. And this helps, man. $19. That's great. Awesome. Thank you very much. And these little things, it's not about this helps the algorithms. So that's another thing. I'm algorithmically challenged because I actually offer things that are helpful. I'm a little less entertaining, I think, than some of the other things you could be watching. So that hurts me. But I'm also algorithmically challenged because I'm talking about things that may fly in the face of some of your common things that are out there. You know what I mean? And unfortunately, relationships and male-female dynamics are very politically motivated. And I'm not always politically correct because I can't tell you the truth and be politically correct at the same time. And then I get throttled by the algorithms for that. So you can help me combat that to get this information out to people who need it, people who will ruin their lives, hurt themselves, hurt other people if they don't get this kind of information. You can help get this out to more of them with your subscribe button, hitting that button, with the like button, with these supers, with the comments. All those things help. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. Yeah, identity modules over in Alpha Mindset course. Helpful. So, okay, cool. I'm going to now take a quick little left turn at Albuquerque. Said that last stream. To do a little commercial break. Okay. So Take 2 minutes. This is coming out soon, and you're going to want to see this if you haven't seen it yet. Psychopaths are evil, but they are successful. And not because they're evil, they're successful because they're effective. The average man is drowning in overthinking, fear, people pleasing, and hesitation, while the most ruthless personalities walk through life winning while you are struggling and you are losing. But here's the truth: you don't need to be a psychopath to win. You just need to learn the traits that they mastered and use them without being immoral or having poor ethics. Focus so sharp that it cuts through distraction. Charm that bends social dynamics. Resilience that makes you unshakable. Ruthlessness, but with empathy for others. The ability to say no without guilt. Fearlessness in the moments that matter. Mindfulness that kills anxiety, and action taking that separates leaders from followers. This isn't about becoming a terrible person. It's about becoming powerful. Someone who leads, someone women trust and desire, someone who commands his world instead of just reacting to it. And that's why I created the Psychopath's Playbook, a complete system for the good men, the non-psychopathic men, but for men who want the results without becoming evil and without wasting years trying to figure it out alone. This is an inner game course that will allow you to tap into that thing that you have been missing, that thing that's inside of you that will allow you to make more money, seduce women, and succeed. If you're ready to unlock the traits that make the world's most effective men untouchable, click the link and get into the community. When this course drops, you will get your exclusive announcement, and you'll be on the list before it fills up. And together, we'll make you unshakable, undeniable, and unstoppable. This is where your old self ends and your rise begins. I'll see you there. Isn't that cool? I'm so proud of my commercial because I used to be really bad with technology and I still feel like I am, but I can create cool commercials, right? Did all that by myself. Isn't that nice? Someday I'll be hiring people. I'll be hiring people again to do my work. I've done that before, but I like knowing what I'm doing a little bit. So anyway, that's my cool. Yeah, whatever. But here's the thing: I'm dropping that course. Okay, that's going to happen. Enrollment's going to happen before the month's over, and then we're going to open up, our webinars for it, and you'll have the course material. It's an inner game course, and it kind of the origins of it are, it occurred to me after some point ago, that a lot of the traits that you guys are after, the things that you guys struggle with from an inner game perspective, are things that psychopathic people have no problems with. You know what I mean? Things like relentlessness, things like dominance, things like hyper focus, things like being able to execute boundaries, for example. Um, I mean, all the emotional resilience of psychopaths is almost an evolved trait. Now, I don't think that there's been a theory that psychopathic stuff is that like the next evolution of a human being. I don't believe in that because you're losing a lot of things too. There's a lot of psychopathic people in prison, in jail, because the natural, parts of your brain that would say, don't do that. Okay. They don't have that. And then they do that thing instead. And they don't care about others. And they end up in prison, in jail, harming others. They can't bond with other people. There's all kinds of bad after effects to actually being a psychopath, but that's a brain condition though. You don't have that brain condition, probably. Statistically speaking, 98% of you listening to me do not have a brain condition that makes you psychopathic. So you're not going to do the things that they do unless you become a sociopath, which is a socially conditioned bad behavior. And of course, we don't want you to do that either. But if you could just sort of grasp onto or latch onto some of the traits and things that psychopathic people have without becoming an actual psychopath, if you could latch onto these traits of resilience, relentlessness, and decision making, action taking. I mean, there's so many of these traits. You would be getting everything that you need. Like your inner game problems would be solved. You would be getting the things that you're lacking right now, or at least you'd be quickly on the road to that if you could latch onto these traits. And so I've developed this course that will train your brain and actually alter your brain response at a limbic level to allow you to be more determined, more masculine, more relentless, more ruthless if you need to be, less weak, but to do so in an empathetic, compassionate way. So you're not going to, you'll give you the best of all worlds, being a healthy person, but with some masculine traits that you need in order to succeed, handle your relationships, handle your life, and to do well. And so that's what the course is about. I'll stop talking about it now. You need to be in the community, okay, or on my newsletter or both in order to get the invite to do it. All right. So if you want to get on the list, I have right now almost 800 people in my community. I'd like that to be 1,000 soon. So the community is growing. So 800 some strong in the community. I'm only going to take like 50 people for this course. So if you're not in there and you want to get in on it, it's going to be a low cost to entry compared to my other coaching program. It's going to be a low cost course to get into, and it's going to greatly benefit you. So if you want to get some good inner game work done, and that'll help you with 2026 goals and all your stuff, this is the thing you want to do. Okay. So get in that community. There's a fucking link in the description. Do the thing to get there, or else you're going to get left out. All right. So enough of that. Let's get into the rest of the stuff. Okay. Traits, 13 of them, remember. All right. So not just traits, sorry, but it's more standards. Okay. So non-negotiable standards. First one, 0 tolerance for disrespect. Now, out of all 13 of these, they're in a logical order, but you know, you need all 13. So there isn't one of these traits that like is necessarily more important than the other. If you're missing any of these standards, I keep saying traits, but I mean to say standards. If you're missing any of these standards, your relationship will fail. So all 13 of these you need. So don't think like when we get to 13 that one's less important than number 1. They're all important. The relationship is like, you know, a building. And if you take out a supporting wall of the building will fall down, right? These 13 things are supporting walls for this building that you're trying to create, right? So if your relationship is a building, these 13 standards are supporting walls. If you remove one, the structure is going to fall apart, okay? So I have a logical order, but stay till the end, as they always say, right? The reason you're going to stay till the end, though, is because number 13 is still, I mean, whether one is more important to you than another, it doesn't matter. If you have 12 of these standards, but are missing number 13, for example, guess what? Building falls apart. All right. So you got to have all of them. But I digress. 0 tolerance for disrespect. Now, what does that mean? What does that look like? Because you've probably heard that before, right? Well, here's the thing. Genuine desire is a requirement for a relationship to work. She has to have the desire for you. It has to be hypergamous desire, meaning she has to see you as the best, right? Now, you can't enforce desire. You can't put a gun to her head and say, you know, desire me, love me, like me, be attracted to me. You can't do that, right? But you can enforce the standards that can create the condition for desire to flourish, and also set boundaries so that desire doesn't erode away. And a lot of these things, these standards are that we're going to go through, are designed to do exactly that. They're either creating conditions for desire for each other and love for each other can flourish, okay? Or they're creating boundaries so that desire is less likely to just erode away. Okay. So many of these standards are for that. Now, some of them have more to do with enforcing capability or sussing out whether she's capable or not. And some of them have to do with, having a compatibility with each other and maintaining that alignment with what your values are and where you're going. So some of these out of the 13 standards are related to that, but many of them are related to desire maintenance, which is the thing that erodes away in most long-term relationships. That's the part that we're not designed to keep going for 30, 50 years. You know what I mean? We're designed to love bomb each other, go through drama and problems, as well as meet milestones, which is dopaminergic and keeps things going. And then the smoke clears and you don't love each other anymore. And then you break up and you mate switch. Evolutionarily speaking, that's more of an advantage. When you only, and I know that's going to fly in the face of like conventional wisdom. It's going to fly in the face of Christian or religious ideology. Well, I'm not saying that Christian or religious ideology is wrong and you shouldn't find a long-term partner for 100 years. Excuse me. Obviously, I think you should do that if that's what you want to do. I think that's one of your best possible outcomes in life is to have that. But, you have to do things to get there. Your brain, the monkey brain, okay, the mammalian brain, the animal brain is not designed to do that for you on accident, okay? Because we lived a very risky lifestyle out in the wilderness for most of our history where we were dead, okay? Babies died early, all right? We had more infant mortality rate was really high. Then people tended to die from violence, from illness, from whatever by the time they were 30, or whatever, thereabouts. Some would live a little longer, like the capacity for us to live longer if we never caught a disease or didn't get clubbed to death was pretty high still back then, but most people didn't get to do that. Most people didn't get the opportunity to live to 80 or whatever because something would catch them and kill them before then, right? And so given that we evolved in that sort of environment where things are very violent, very risky, not medical, don't have the medical care. You could die from a common cold, you know what I mean? Could die from tetanus because you stepped on a stick. I mean, it wasn't an advantage for our brains to condition to be with one person, our soulmate, until we're 100 years old, because most people would never live that long or even come close to it. What was an advantage was to have these high drama relationships where you bang out kids with a bunch of different mommies, and mommies banging out kids with different daddies. And maybe you have the protection of a mate for a couple of years, but then he gets killed in battle or she cucks him or whatever happens. You see what I'm saying? So like we have a very violent, tumultuous upbringing that our brains are conditioned for. So if you let your brain do it for you, you're going to end up doing exactly that, which is what you see in a lot of low income areas, but not just both the inner cities as well as rural areas. These crazy, dumb relationships where everyone cheats on each other. There's domestic violence. There's all this stuff. There's babies from different dads. There's dads taking care of babies, not theirs. There's all kinds of crap going on. Well, that's the monkey brain. Okay. That's what the monkey brain does. If you don't make good decisions for yourself and have good values, you end up being a trailer park Bob with 3 different mommies, and kids you don't see, like stupid stuff. Right. And so if you don't want to be trailer park Bob, I like that. That's a good character. If you don't want to be trailer park Bob, right, and you want to be a successful, valuable guy with a good relationship with a woman who's not going to cuck you, you have to do things. You can't let your monkey brain run the show. Okay. And most people are idiots when it comes to these things. They let their monkey brains run the show. And then they have these insane egos about it. That's the thing that really pisses me off. It's like they're all over the place spewing up their bullshit and having mental gymnastics over, you know what I mean? And these massive egos of just justifying what the monkey brain is doing. Experts do this. Doctors do this. Therapists do this. They're just mouthing crap to justify monkey brain behaviors instead of thinking about what could we do to perform better? How could we arrange our lives so we could do better? Right? And what are the strategies? What are the tools? How can we redirect this brain we have into success in getting the things we want? They're not asking those fucking questions. And I'm over here screaming on YouTube about it with 20 some thousand subscribers or whatever. And there's people out there with millions of people watching them talking about this shit who say nothing. It drives me fucking crazy. But anyway, so you can't leave it to your own devices. Desire has to be maintained. You have to do things to maintain it. That means you have standards in your relationship that are designed to keep that thing going, right? We all kind of know, like even the dumbest people out there who know nothing about relationships, even the most blue-pilled, if you want to call them that, people out there know that you have to continue to maintain your relationship, right? Like people know that, you know what I mean? Like they know you have to like put effort in or else the relationship falls apart. Like people know that. They don't have any idea how to do it. You know what I mean? Nobody's teaching anybody how to do it. Well, I am, but who knows where I'm at? You know what I mean? Most people don't know who I am. Okay. But it's not being taught on a large scale. We'll put it like that. Okay. So these standards, this is how you do it. Having these standards is how you make sure she still wants you 10 years later, 30 years later, and that you still want her. You have to actively do something to make it happen. And that's your frame that does it. You have a frame that does that. Well, what involves frame? Frame means having boundaries and standards that keeps you seeing the world the way you want to see it and actioning doing behaviors in the world in the way that's going to get you the results that you want. And you're both aligned with those things and you're both doing those things and moving a relationship in a direction that you both want to go. And you can't do that. You don't have frame if you don't have boundaries, if you don't have standards. And these standards and boundaries need to be designed to maintain, to keep desire going, as well as making sure, executing the capability, you know what I mean, of being a healthy person for the other person and keeping your goals and your direction aligned and that stuff too. But the goals, the direction, the compatibility, the capability, I don't want to say those are easy, but that capability and compatibility. Okay. So is she capable of being healthy? And is she, are you two compatible together? That has more to do with vetting and choosing the right person. You know what I mean? And then you have a few standards that maintain that direction, but that's pretty easy. What's not easy, because it's the thing that's designed to go away if you don't do something about it, is desire. Even if that chick sees you as the best she can do, if you don't do anything about that, 5 years later, she's not going to see you that way. She's just not, her feelings for you will erode. Then she could do something stupid, like she could cheat on you, break up with you, separate, something like that. And then maybe that separation, it bonks her on the head. That's the pattern disrupt she needs to then go, oh, wait, he is the best I can do. Okay. But you don't want to create that problem, because that leads to relationships breaking up and problems. You don't want the relationship to blow up for her to realize that you're her hypergamous best. You know what I mean? You don't want her to feel like you're not and that she needs to leave, right? Because you didn't do these things that I'm going to list here with the boundaries and standards. You know what I'm saying? That's not what you want. So anyway, I'll take a peek at. I know Trailer Park Bob was not a bad analogy. Just Kid Rock. Anyway, okay, cool. So back to like stuff, right? So yeah, we know, okay, zero tolerance for disrespect. Well, again, maintaining respect is a key thing for maintaining desire. A woman can't love you if she doesn't respect you. She can't maintain desire for you and seeing you as the guy she wants to be with if she loses respect for you. So you have to do the things as a man to be valuable and to be somebody who's worthy of that respect. But that's more like shit you should be bringing into the relationship and stuff you should be doing anyway, right? But you have to set a standard for how you treat each other in regards to respect, because respect is a precursor to love and desire. This is not an opinion, by the way. This is a researched fact based on the biology of attachment. She doesn't respect somebody, she doesn't have that attachment to that person. It's just the way it is. You know what I mean? So, but again, you can't hold a gun to her head and say, you better love me and desire me and respect me and have a feeling of respect, or else. Like, you can't, she has to have that feeling on her own. But what you can do is take away the ability for her to be disrespectful to you, which would put her mind in a negative bias and erode away whatever feelings she used to have of respect for you. So if she fell in love with you and she had to have had some level of respect for you if she fell in love with you. But let's say she's the type of person who has been conditioned to be disrespectful as a means of behaving, as a means of controlling her relationships, as a means of getting people to do what she wants, you know what I mean, or whatever. And so then she executes that tendency, that toxic trait that she has, and acts disrespectful to you. What happens if you tolerate it is that you become less worthy of her respect. So her mind gets in a negative bias and she loses respect over time, the more time she's disrespectful to you, right? And then what ends up happening is the desire is gone. You see, there's no motivation to be in a relationship with you. And this would go the other way around, although you don't actually require, as a man, because of hypergamy, you don't actually require respect in order to, have desire for the girl. Believe it or not, us guys are a little bit goofy in the sense that we could have like not a lot of respect for a girl and still like have desire for her. We still want to bang her. We could still want to take care of her. But that doesn't mean you should disrespect the girl you're with. Just because you don't need it because of vasopressin, you don't necessarily need that respect as a man in order to desire her. A lot of guys think then that it's okay to be disrespectful to the girl they're with because they still care about them, they still love them, they still this. Well, no, that's not true, because if you are disrespecting her, you're eroding away her value and how she feels about herself. If she accepts that from you, she's going to feel less valuable to you, and therefore she will be less valuable to you. She won't show up 100% for you if you disrespect her all the time and she doesn't feel 100% with you. You see what I'm saying? So you can't disrespect her either. Just because your love for her and a need to take care of her doesn't depend on respect, that doesn't mean that disrespecting her is okay, because it'll erode away her showing up 100%, and it'll erode away her feeling good about herself when she's with you, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do, right? So you have to have a standard of respect. We treat each other like this. This is in private and especially in public, okay? Now, let's say that the moment where she has a moment, she's an emotional moment, she's upset, and then she acts disrespectful. Does that mean you dump her immediately? Well, not necessarily, which leads into number 2. Okay, so number 2 is, and I was going to list all of these, then it's going to take a while to go back and forth. Here, I'll do this. Number 2 is number 2. Number 2 is forgiveness and letting things go. Okay, so you have to have respect for each other, and you also have to have forgiveness and the ability to let things go. I am going to put these in a document, and at the end I'll show all 13 rather, sorry, for you to put in your notes if you're taking notes. And then when I put chapter breaks, I'll have it in there as well. So you'll have a comprehensive list. I'll even put all 12 of these in the later on. I'll put it in the chat, and I'll pin it in the chat. So you'll get all these. So now forgiveness, that's number 2. Okay. Letting things go. No scorekeeping. All right. So going back to the respect thing, do you break up with her because she's disrespectful? Well, maybe, Maybe if it's so serious and egregious, that's what you do. Maybe if it's early in the relationship where she should be in a love bombing, I don't say love bombing, but a honeymoon kind of state, right? Maybe then instead of, if she should be in the honeymoon phase and she's being disrespectful to you, then when she should be being her best self with you, maybe that's time to stop dating her. So yeah, don't expect, if it's early on, especially, sometimes you do just leave her for being disrespectful. But a lot of times it's not how it develops. A lot of times things are going really good for a long time and then it crops up. Okay. She has a moment. She has a moment because as her emotions rise with you, and as you become more of a fixture in her life, the risk now is higher for her. So the anxiety gets higher, and then the negative emotions start coming out. And those negative emotions can cause her to have a moment of disrespect where she basically makes a mistake, right? Well, guess what? People make mistakes. You make mistakes. You make mistakes every day. Okay. So does she. All right. Neither of you are perfect. So you're both going to make mistakes, especially in the beginning of the relationship when that honeymoon phase starts to wear off. That's when you're in a challenge phase and you're trying to work out all your kinks, figure each other out. How do we function as a couple now, right? That's when a lot of mistakes are going to get made. Okay. You're going to make them, she'll make them. You have to have a standard of forgiveness. You won't get past it. That's the reality. And so many women like to hold on to grudges in order to have power over the men they're with. This is a standard and a boundary that you have to have. You can't allow that. If you're with somebody who does that, dump them. They have to have the clear message. Even if they've done that, you've done this in your last 10 relationships, but you don't do that with me. She has to be very on board with fixing that and having a mindset of forgiveness and letting things go versus a mindset of using your mistakes and weaponizing them for future arguments. Women love to weaponize a man's mistakes or downfalls for future arguments and things so she can have power over the guy. And guess what? You can't allow it. That's a standard and that's a frame thing. If she does that, it's going to erode away your relationship. Okay. But the other thing is too, you can't do that to her. All right. Either. So you have to have a standard of forgiveness. You have to be willing to forgive and let things go. All right. And you have to require that of her too. This is more of a mindset and a feeling. Some people sort of have conditioned their brains and their lives to be forgiving people. And some people are just not, and they hold grudges and they always have problems with people. They seek revenge, all kinds of stuff. Which one is she? If she's somebody who is a grudge holder and seeks revenge and you're never going to get one over on me, I'm going to, whatever. People think that's tough. That's not tough. It's actually weak, right? Because it means you don't have the emotional resiliency just to cut somebody off if they're a problem for you and move on. You know what I mean? Move on with your life. If you have to get revenge, if you have to seek out, you know what I mean? Like restitution all the time, if you hold grudges, that's a weakness. It's not a strength. And if she does that, she's probably a terrible person, like straight up. And so many women do this. So many women do this to the guys they're with. You can't accept it. All right. And it goes with respect too, because if she has a mindset of weaponizing your past, she's going to lose respect for you. Each little thing that you do that's annoying to her, each little thing you do that's a little bit of an offense to her will all add up in her head. And that leads to what's called a devaluing, which is exactly what cluster B personality disordered people do in an abuse cycle. That BPD girl some of you guys got in with, that narcissist girl some of you guys hooked up with, that's what she did to you. Okay. In order to the abuse cycle of narcissists or borderline personality disordered people or antisocials as well is to devalue the person they're with. This happens because they hang on to past grudges and mistakes and they weaponize them. So you have to have a standard that you don't do this. And if she's doing this, you start to enforce that standard. Hey, that's not how we treat each other. That's not what we're going to do. I'm not going to entertain a conversation with you where you bring up something that happened a couple months ago that we should be over, that we're over with. We solved that problem. Why are you bring? That's not what we're talking about now. We're talking about this. And if she refuses to do that, if she's refusing to let go of the past, if she doesn't have forgiveness, this is something you could sort out really early in the dating process too. Just seeing the type of person she is. Is she sweet? Is she kind? Is she feminine? Is she somebody who, isn't quick to just dump a friend or discard somebody? Like, have you noticed her talking about or demonstrating forgiveness for other people? Or is she holding grudges? Is she bitching about everyone who's victimized her? Is she bitching about every ex-boyfriend she had and how she was the victim of all these guys? Is she, you know what I mean? Like, is she bitching about all the things that people have done to her to be the victim? That's somebody who doesn't have forgiveness. You see what I mean? This is really easy to sort out in the beginning. And a woman who has no forgiveness has no place in a long-term relationship. She's recreational use only, because eventually she's going to hate you. Eventually she's going to resent you. Eventually she's going to lose desire if she can't forgive you and move on and forget about it. You know what I mean? So it's pretty simple. So if you want to save yourself a lot of heartache, okay, that means you have to have somebody with a mindset of forgiveness, and you have to have that too. And you have to foster that in your relationship. So that's another thing. And it's going to lead us to another one. Now, forgiveness is related to respect, because if she doesn't forgive you, if she holds grudges, what's she going to lose? She's going to lose respect, which means she'll lose desire. She'll lose all those things. But here's the thing, though. You can't have a standard of forgiveness in your relationship without two other things, which are going to lead to the next items. Okay. And those two other things are accountability and gratitude. Okay. And there's even more too. These are all tied in, interestingly enough, and radical acceptance as well. I'll come back to forgiveness when I get to radical acceptance. Okay, but we'll move on to number 3 now, which is accountability, humility, and apology. That's right, fucking apology. Okay, I don't know if it was I don't know when this came to be a thing, but there's this myth going around in the man's help areas of life, the manosphere, all that bullshit, that somehow you can't apologize because that makes you weak. I don't know the fuck that came from, but it's stupid. All right. I don't know. I think it came from this. I think it came from, like, if you're a public figure and people are just like looking to slander you, you don't go out and make some apology statement. And that makes sense, because people are out trying to slander you. They're not interested in your apology. So if you do an apology, they're going to take that apology and use it against you. So for public figures, if they do something wrong, there's a trick to having accountability, but without necessarily apologizing or groveling or whatever, right? Because the public will just take that and run them out of the tribe with that. You know what I mean? You'll get ostracized due to that apology. So that makes sense when dealing with public situations as a public figure. But in your personal relationships and just in your life, you don't fucking apologize. Why? Are you such a pussy that you can't just be like, dude, I'm fucking sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Like that word out of your mouth of showing and demonstrating to another person that you are holding yourself accountable for something that was a mistake with that other person, that's too hard for you. Like, that's like, you're so weak, you can't do that. Your ego is so fragile that if you say, hey, dude, you know what? Sorry about that. That was kind of fucked up. So, well, let's reset. Let's try again. That's too hard for you. Like, that's a weak ass, dude. That's a weak ass bullshit. I'm going to say it right now. Okay. If you can't apologize, you're a weak ass man. Sorry. I know that I have friends who may disagree, but they're wrong. All right. So if you're wrong, you're wrong. Okay. You have to be able to apologize, but it's not just apologizing and stuff, right? It's having accountability. having a little bit of humility. You're a human being, okay? And you know this thing how women don't apologize and women don't have accountability? That's until they meet me, right? If my girlfriend, right, is in a relationship with me. Now she actually had some accountability going into it, but guess what? She's not in a relationship for me this long with no accountability. There's no woman who's been in a relationship with me who wasn't required to have accountability and humility and the ability to apologize when she fucks up. I don't know. Like just hasn't happened in a long time. I can't remember anyone who's been in any kind of serious relationship with me. They may have dumped all that accountability stuff when the relationship broke up, but while they were with me, that was a requirement. So I don't really understand this thing with women. They never apologize and this, and that, and the other because I don't tolerate it. I understand it. I understand why women do it. I understand that at a large scale, women don't have accountability. I do get that. But on a personal level, it's like, I just don't experience that. Why don't I experience that? Well, fuck, I don't tolerate it. That's why I don't get in relationships with people who don't have accountability. And I don't continue relationships with when people stop. If the girl I'm with stops having accountability, there's a point. I'm going to give her grace because I have forgiveness and we're going to try to work on it. But there's a point where that relationship will end because she's refusing to be accountable. And I've had many of my relationships end because of that. She just stops being accountable. She diverts to her old behavior. So guess what? That was fun while it lasted then. I will move to another relationship. And hopefully the next person will be more capable of doing that long term. Now, of course, today I'm better at vetting people out for that than I had been in my past, but accountability is absolute requirement. And so you can't let girls will oftentimes, because, all right, so this is female nature, okay? Females want to be the good chimpanzee, whereas us men, we want to be the useful chimpanzee. So us being, this is evolutionary psychology now, us being resource providers and protectors, we are more likely to be accountable because we are results driven. We're less likely to be pleasant to other people, sympathetic to others, and all those sorts of things. In other words, as men, we can be assholes, right? We're more likely to be assholes instinctually, but we need to feel that value. We need to feel the value of being a provider, of being a protector. Okay, so that's our instincts. We're less focused on getting everybody to like us, more focused on results. Okay. Women, it's the opposite. Women were not the resource providers historically in our history and evolution. So they were working with others in the tribe cooperatively for the efficiency of the resources that were brought back and for the protection and raising of children. So women are better at cooperating with each other. They're less likely to be assholes socially than us men, but also less likely to be performance driven. Okay. Now, again, I'm not saying that there aren't women out there that aren't performance driven or whatever, but this is just a general evolutionary concept. So with that means the girl brain is going to feel more of a sense of fear or anxiety for admitting fault. Having accountability, apologizing is harder for a girl because she wants to be liked, not necessarily wanting to, admit to mistakes so she can get better results. Admitting mistakes in the wrong environment can lead to not being liked, you see? So she's less likely to want to admit mistake, apologize, take accountability for it, because that could lead to her not being liked and not being seen as socially valuable. So women have a tendency to want to hide mistakes. They get a sense of anxiety more so than a guy, I think, unless they've conditioned their brain differently or are being socially conditioned differently. Women tend to get more of a sense of anxiety when it comes to things like apologies and being accountable. So you have to create the environment in your relationship that allows her to be accountable without penalty, without being penalized for it. This is why forgiveness is so important. And these two things are really integral, because if you don't have, if you hold on to grudges yourself, if you're going to weaponize mistakes she makes instead of giving her a chance to improve on them, then why would she want to be accountable? Why would she apologize? Why would she want to admit fault and try to work on anything if you're just going to weaponize it? You see what I mean? And vice versa is true. You can't be the guy who's out apologizing and, saying, you know what, you're right. Let me fix it. Hey, I'm going to do better. Let me, and you're working on yourself. And then she's just taking anything you do that isn't perfect and weaponizing it against you. See, these things won't work. This creates a bad power dynamic. And I'll get into that too in this video. So, like, you have to have accountability or this forgiveness thing isn't going to be good. You know what I mean? You as a man have to create an environment where she can be accountable, which means you don't hold grudges, okay? And you don't punish her for a mistake that she's admitting to, being accountable for, and trying to fix. All right? Vice versa, though, you have to instill a standard where she's not doing that to you. All right. So yeah, this forgiveness thing, although forgiveness, I would say, is really important for you and your own mental health, more so than any relationship you're in. But without accountability, forgiveness won't have a positive effect on the relationship, right? So being someone who's extra forgiving to her when she lacks accountability and doesn't fix anything isn't going to advance the relationship at all. You know what I mean? So you have to have both. All right. So you got to take responsibility for your parts in that relationship. She has to take responsibility for hers. You have to create a standard for that. All right. You have to illustrate a standard. You have to require that she admits fault, apologizes. She talks about what she's going to do better. That has to be a requirement in your discussions, in your Luca discussions when something bad happens or a problem. You might have to have a frame discussion where you doing statements of fact, I call it, where you're saying, hey, this is how we treat each other. Listen, we have to be accountable to each other. And that means that I can't punish you and hold grudges because you did something wrong. I have to be able to forgive you for things you've done and let them go and never talk about them again. And I expect the same from you. But that only works if we're being accountable too, meaning admitting fault. We're trying to find where we could do better instead of trying to find fault in the other person. And if we're not doing that, we're not going to be together because this thing's going to blow up. You have to have that conversation. You know what I mean? As a minimal requirement. All right. You have to be able to admit when you're wrong, and she has to be able to admit when she's wrong. Okay. You have to have the ability to apologize in your relationship, and she has to have the ability to apologize in the relationship without a worry about being shamed, guilted, or humiliated for that apology, or being seen as less than because of that apology. Okay. You have to instill that frame. Okay. You can correct behavior. You can admit fault. You can state the reasons, conditions, and reasons why that happened and what you're going to do to correct it, but you're not going to be defensive. Okay. Defensiveness comes up when there's no accountability. All right. Um, so you put the truth above and the goals of the relationship above your ego, and above, she has to do the same. So you lead by example as a man. You show extreme levels of accountability. Extreme levels. You're always looking for the thing you can do better, and you're always illustrating that to the person you're with. But here's the thing, okay? That standard is a requirement for her, and you accept nothing less. If she is not doing the same thing, you're not advancing the relationship. Probably there is no relationship, right? Because if you're following the right protocol, you're dating in a non-committed way for a while and sorting this stuff out before you decide okay, we're committed now. We're building a future together. So before you decide to build a future together, idealistically, this gets sorted out. And if you're with somebody who doesn't have the same to a level of accountability, um, she doesn't have to match your level because you're probably going to be better at it than she is, but she needs to be pretty damn good at it. And she needs to have that standard. And if she doesn't, why are you continuing? And for those of you guys in relationships with women who have no accountability and who refuse to admit fault and all that shit, you need to solve this problem or start to execute your, exiting of that relationship. And if you can't do that, or you don't know how to do that, that's what my community is all about. You need to be in the community asking these questions, how to do this. Some of you guys are sitting in relationships that are fucking miserable and you're not doing anything about it. Yeah, you're with some woman who's rarely ever accountable for anything, and it's like pulling teeth to get her to admit fault, to look for what problems she's creating, look for things that she can do to fix things. It's like pulling teeth. But because maybe you're not arguing every day, you just sort of sit in that relationship. Then every month, 2 months, 3 months, you're having an argument or a problem and she's taking no accountability. And you have to fight to get her to take any sort of ownership for what she's doing. And then the argument fizzles out and you're back to the status quo for another month or two. You're wasting your fucking time. You're wasting your time with a woman who is not capable of making it work long term. Because if she's not taking accountability, she's not fixing anything. Okay. And she's only going to blame shift, because where does the blame go? If she can't focus her energy on fixing herself, where does that energy go? It goes into blame shifting everything onto you. And then she's going to do what? Devalue you, not have forgiveness, not respect you. Do you see how this is all like foundational? That if you remove a foundational wall, the building falls down? She has to have accountability, or all these other things I've talked about erode away. They go away. Okay. So anyway, you have to solve that problem. All right. You have to have it and you have to solve it. So many people don't. Now we get into number 4, which is gratitude. You can't have forgiveness without gratitude either. You can't have an environment where you let things go and you're just happy with the other person if you can't be grateful. Gratitude is foundational to a relationship, and it's foundational to your mental health. Okay. Gratitude is one of those things that she will most likely have and possess before she's in the relationship with you. This is one of those things you sort of vet out for. Does she have, because it's a habit. Gratitude is a habit. Being grateful for what you have, appreciative, is the opposite of being entitled. Okay. So most women are either entitled and they have an entitlement problem, or they have gratitude and they have a feeling of appreciation for the things that they have. Most women kind of tend to go one way or the other. Many of you guys pick the girl who's entitled and then you spend your whole life trying to fucking win her over, and it's a disaster. Okay. That's foundational for a frame. You guys have gratitude in your relationship. People tend to either live by it or live without it. If you're a cranky, unsatisfied, fucking poo-poo faced guy walking around, right, who's pissed off at the world and mad at yourself and mad at this and mad at Western women and mad at politics and this and that, the other, you don't have gratitude in your life. And you're going to get with a woman who's entitled. It's going to happen to you. If you're a bitchy bitch, okay, as a guy, you're going to end up with a bitch like who's entitled and who doesn't appreciate anything you do, because you don't walk the walk. You don't walk around with appreciation for the things that you have. Even if you're at fucking 0 right now, are you breathing? Are you alive? I know people who didn't make it. Lots of people in my life, for various different parts of my life, they didn't make it. They're not breathing right now. They're not alive anymore. You are. Already, you got a starting point for gratitude. You see what I'm saying? You got to train your brain to live with gratitude. Gratitude is a practice. Gratitude is a mindset shift. You have to do it every day. or you're going to attract women who don't have it. You know what I mean? The only woman that's going to be around a poo-poo faced guy with no gratitude for very long is going to be a woman who is either damaged and has self-esteem problems or is low market value, right? Or it's going to be a woman who's entitled. She's a bitchy bitch walking around bitching all the time. So she's okay. You being a bitchy bitch guy is normal then to her. And then you wonder why this woman's entitled and bitchy and whatever, because you are. You know what I mean? So you have to change that in yourself first. You have to show up with that. You have to show up with gratitude. You have to do gratitude as a practice. The good news is, if you are a bitchy bitch guy, right, this is actually easy to fix. This is one of the easy ones because you just have to start doing it every day. You just start to have to shift your mind. There's gratitude practices. I have them in my coursework. Okay, I've talked about them on other streams. You can go to school and ask about them. Okay, simple mindset practices that you can do in a couple weeks. You'll be living with gratitude. That's it. For your religious people, just pray. Don't pray with a grocery list on shit you're going to ask for and hope we win the football game kind of stuff. Just pray and give thanks. And don't just say the words, but be in a presence and in a feeling of being grateful for what you have. That's going to solve so many problems in your whole life. Really will. Whether you're religious or secular, practice is practically the same. Okay. It changes your brain. All right. And so you have to do that, man. You have to do that for yourself. If you don't do that for yourself, you won't have the standard in your relationship. You're going to pick women who are entitled. Now, some of you guys have a lot of gratitude and you still pick women who are entitled because you didn't have this sorted out in your brain as a standard. And because you're used to entitled women, let's face it, there's a lot of them out there. So you get used to halfway decent looking, bitchy, but entitled women because you live in the United States or in Australia or in London or something, right? And so, yes, I'm picking on the Western women. And so then what? You just, it's normal to you. So you pick up a girl who's got this entitled attitude and shitty attitude. Don't do it, right? There's plenty of women out there who are pretty who don't have shitty attitudes. Okay. Now, again, you have forgiveness in your heart. Sometimes there's a moment. Sometimes you have a day where your attitude's shitty. But is that day like every day? Is that day several times a week? That day shouldn't be more than a couple times, in the worst case, a couple times a month if she's going through a really hard time. Otherwise, shitty attitude, couple times every 3 months, maybe. And then she gets back. She doesn't externalize her bad feelings onto everybody else. She figures out emotionally how to get back on track and being in a good mindset and appreciating for what she has. Things like anxiety, depression, anger, all of the negative things do not exist in the same brain as gratitude. When you have a feeling of gratitude, in the moments that you're feeling that and in the presence of gratitude, you can't have like these other bad things can't exist. Gratitude is like a major thing just for your mental health. Anyway, you got to enforce that in your relationship. When someone's being entitled and bitchy, like, right, this is a beginning thing. If you're married to someone who's like this, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you got your work cut out for you. Like, if you are with somebody who's like this, if you're with a woman with an entitlement problem who lacks gratitude, you need to get into my community, DM me, and we need to get you into my mastermind because it's going to take you several months to unfuck that. And you may find that you can't and you have to leave her, in which case you're going to need the support for that. This is not a thing where you wing it. Okay. You either leave the relationship right now. She has no gratitude, leave the relationship. Okay. That's one answer. You're going to have problems there, but do that. Or smart thing to do would be to get some damn coaching because you're not going to fix this on your own. This is something that some women do fix and some don't. Okay. And it's going to take some help to figure that out. All right. But gratitude has to be the thing that you enforce in your relationship. Without it, it won't work because gratitude is relationship fuel. It softens the conflict, it increases attraction, it decreases devaluing, it decreases holding grudges, it decreases having unpleasant, bitchy attitudes. Let's talk about sex, which is coming up here in a few bullet points. You're not going to run out of, you're not going to have the sex go into this, you know, um, sexless relationship or whatever, unless she's entitled and bitchy. You know what I mean? Women with gratitude have sex with you more. That's the reality of it. So the equation is simple. Relationship will fail. Okay, will fail when men and women stop appreciating each other and having gratitude in their lives. The relationship will thrive when those small acts and those things are acknowledged and appreciated. Okay, if you don't appreciate each other, you won't maintain desire, you won't maintain attraction, and you won't last. You'll have a miserable relationship. And if you get with an entitled woman, that is exactly what will happen. You will end up in misery. Okay, so that is a non-negotiable framework. You have to have gratitude, and she has to have that too. Now, this leads into number 5, okay? And number 5 is radical honesty, okay? I'm writing this down so I can show a screenshot of all of them listed at the end. So number 5 is radical honesty, okay? So radical honesty, number 5. Go back. Okay. So you can't have a relationship that is based on lies. It's based on delusion. That's based on deception. Okay. You can be persuasive with game skills. I train you how to be persuasive. Okay. But you can't be manipulative, and you can't be with a manipulator, and you can't be with a person who is deceptive and who will lie to you. And you can't be that person to her either. Okay. That you have to have radical honesty in your relationship. And that needs to be a thing. She needs to be able to tell the truth no matter what, which means that you want to ask her some question that you're worried you're not going to like the answer. Well, you better be careful what you ask her then. Okay. You can't create an environment where you punish her, which will get into the next one, where you punish her for telling the truth either. You asked a bunch of questions about an ex-boyfriend, and then you didn't like the answers because she was actually enjoyed the guy when she was with him. And now you're mad. Well, guess what? That's your fucking fault. All right. Do you want her to tell you the truth, or do you want her to lie to you? You got to make that decision. Make the decision early. Are you man enough to handle the truth? First of all, if you're not man enough to handle it, cool. You're not man enough to have a strong, healthy, long-term relationship either. And that's fine. You'll just have one of those shitty ones. That'll be you. Okay. But if you're man enough to handle it, you better have radical honesty as a principle, as a standard, as a framework in your relationship. She tells you the truth no matter what. And then you got to do the same with her. Okay. Now there's persuasive ways of presenting things, right? For example, if she comes out and her outfit doesn't look like your outfit looks like shit, right? Are you gonna be like, your outfit looks like shit, you look ugly with that? Like, don't say it like that. You may say it in a way that's persuasive. Babe, I want you to wear this outfit instead. Why, you don't like this outfit? You know what? It's not my favorite outfit. There's ways. I would never lie to my girlfriend about what she's wearing. Now, she's hot. She can kind of wear like a fucking burlap sack and it's fine. But really, if we're going someplace and she asks me, well, we have a very dominant submissive relationship. So she's always like, what should I wear? Should I wear this? Does this look good? She likes the security of me being able to tell her that. I'm not about to tell her that she looks good in something that she doesn't look good in. And you shouldn't do that either. This is a small thing. Okay. This is a small thing where girls want you to lie to them. You know what I mean? Don't fall for it. I feel like a lot of times a lot of women, they like to do these little things where they actually want you to lie to them. They like to ask, do I look fat in this? They like to do that to see if you'll lie to them. And then when you lie to them, then it justifies in their own head all the lies that they tell you. Think about that. It's kind of fucking crazy when you think about it, because I just kind of had that thought. But yeah, I think a lot of times, because the way that women can be, they're asking you questions that they know that you're going to lie to keep the peace. And then they are fine. And he goes away. And you think you're fine. But really what just happened was you lied to her and she knows you lied, which then makes her feel like a good chimpanzee to be able to lie to you later when she feels like you shouldn't know the truth because that would hurt your feelings. See what I mean? So if you like being lied to, don't lie to her. There's ways of telling the truth where you can be persuasive, spare her feelings, have empathy, but you're still being honest. And that's a skill set. Okay. That's a persuasion skill thing. That's a game skill thing. Come see me if you want to learn more. Okay. But that's something you need. So none of this omission, no lies through omission, no half truths. I got videos on how to detect lies for a reason. All right. No manipulating, no deception, no protecting her feelings. And she's not trying to save your fragile little feelings either. Okay. Because you're really just hiding from reality. This is LTR now. Some girl you're dating, you don't owe her all of the explanation for everything. Some girl you're not planning a life with, do you owe her the answer to everything? You probably don't. And she doesn't owe it to you either. Okay. That's a different level of boundaries and standards. You deserve privacy and she deserves privacy too. And that means that not everybody gets to know everything about you, right? So you're going to omit things, stuff like that, but you're not going to omit things that are pertinent to her decision to sleeping with you or pertinent to her decision to pursuing something with you. So that's the difference. But then the other thing is, if you're getting into a long-term relationship where there's a commitment and you expect it to last long-term, you can't omit those things anymore. You have to be able to tell each other the truth. You might not tell each other everything all the time. And maybe there is an agreement that you just don't talk about certain things, which is fine. But then that's still being done then with integrity. You're not hiding things. She's not hiding them from you. Women use deception as a tool to have power in their relationships, and it's very negative and destructive. I mean, guys, you do it too. I'd say they both do it, but you know what I mean? And so women are very good at deception. They're better than you at it. All right. Because you'll just lie through commission and get your ass caught. She'll not get caught because she's going to word things in such a way, omit things in a certain way, and then use emotional influence to get you to not ask any more questions. And the next thing you know, she's not telling the truth. She's being deceptive. Women use deception. They're wired to do it. They're good at it. Okay. That's just it. Hey, this isn't a criticism. It is just what it is. But you have to take that away from yourself as well as from them. So you got to be telling the truth, which leads to number 6, which is radical acceptance of the truth of what you know what I mean? You have to create emotional safety. But what does that mean? That means being able to and I'm writing it down, radical acceptance. Because remember, I'm going to show that thing later at the end. You have to be able to have like the environment. I say, what's emotional safety? Emotional safety is creating an environment where you're not going to punish her for telling you the truth. So you have to be able to radically accept whatever she's going to tell you. This falls in line with accountability and forgiveness as well, because she's not going to be accountable to herself, or at least illustrate that accountability ability to you, if she thinks you're going to have a fragile little emotions and not accept what she's saying. If she thinks she thinks she's going to get shamed, or that you're going to blow up on her or lose your shit or whatever for telling you the truth or having accountability, well, then she's not going to do those things. You see what I mean? A woman is already wired to not do those things in order to try to save face. Now, very elevated, intelligent, self-aware women will go against that instinct, and take that instinct, use their big brains, and then they'll have accountability. Okay, so like there's some women who will have that accountability by using their human brain and not defaulting to their instinct. But it's a struggle for them. It's harder. It's hard for them because their instinct's telling them, okay, like don't apologize, don't admit fault because you're going to get punished. Especially if she grew up with parents that tended to hold, punish her and penalize her for telling the truth, which happened. She'd tell the truth and then she'd get punished. She'd get in trouble. She'd get yelled at. She'd get devalued, right, by her parents. So that's social conditioning too. Like if a girl is trying hard to be accountable, tell the truth, okay, have forgiveness, not hold grudges, all those things, you have to have radical acceptance or she won't keep doing it. You can't blow up. You can't lose your shit. You can't be upset at the truth she's telling you. You know what I mean? You can't punish her or shame her for telling you what's going on, especially if they're questions that you've asked. So radical honesty and integrity, really, okay, radical integrity falls in line with radical acceptance. Okay, you can't have one without the other. I like the words radical integrity better because it's just better. So I just wrote that down. But anyway, so you have to have that. You can't lose your shit. Okay, a lot of guys screw this up. Most of you guys screw this up, actually. It's a game problem. This goes back to that psychopath playbook course to have emotional self-control. Many of you guys lack this and you blow up. Girl's being honest to you or she's being accountable or she's saying some things. She doesn't say it in the way that you like. You don't like what she's telling you. Okay, so what happens? You blow up, you get upset, you lose your shit, you get judgmental. You can't be judgmental, right? If you're judgmental, you're not radically accepting what's going on. So you can't have contempt for her. So radical acceptance removes contempt. Contempt is like she tells you some things that are the truth, and then you look at her like she's disgusting, like she's less of a person, that sort of thing, right? Or she does that to you. That contempt doesn't belong in a relationship. That ruins, that kills desire. Okay, that kills the desire in a relationship. So how do you remove contempt? Radical acceptance. She has to be able to radically accept when you tell her the truth without being resentful, without being, judgmental, and without using shame or guilt to try to control you. Do you see how these greater frame statements encompass so many things? Going back to my beginning example, do you see how like a girl's night out is really not a real thing to worry about? It is, but it's not. You know what I mean? Like the girl's night out or how she handles her exes or all these things I've talked about too. But these things are easy to deal with when you have the frame and when you have these standards. When you have basic standards and you have this frame, you're not worried about how she handles her exes because she's going to do it the right way. And if she does it the wrong way, you just refer to the values and principles and standards you have in the relationship. And then it starts to work itself out if she really does have the same principles that you're asking for, right? That you're telling her to have. So we're going to take a little bit of a left turn. This one is the most important thing. Okay. This one is, well, again, out of all 13, there really is no most important because if you're missing one, it's all in the toilet. But this one is the one that's big. This one's the controversial one. This is the one that I say shit about this. Excuse me. I say shit about this thing and everyone flips the fuck out on me. Okay. Everyone freaks out. People start protecting their ego. Women get really upset at this one. Okay. So this one upsets a lot of women. It's funny because it shouldn't. I'm going to tell you what it is. And you're going to go, most of you who regularly listen to me will be like, that shouldn't piss anybody off. But it does. This one is a major thing for people. Okay. And that is sex. Okay. 7, sexual integrity and desire maintenance. Desire maintenance. What does that mean? You have to fuck the person you're with. You have to do it enthusiastically, and you have to do it frequently. When in doubt, fuck the person you're with. Sex. Bang your wives, bang your husbands, bang your girlfriends. You're having struggle in a relationship, bang each other first, then work it out. You see what I'm saying? You work something out and you want to celebrate, bang each other to celebrate, and then go have dinner. Okay? You got some wonderful milestone event, have a really good milestone sex. You just got done with a argument, have that really hot breakup sex. You see what I'm saying? Bang each other. Like banging each other is a solution to most of your problems. Yet people get married and they stop banging each other. Whoa, you know what I mean? And then women who are in these relationships, a lot of them like to act like they're assault victims. Oh, you mean I have to bang my husband? I'm such a victim. It's just like, come on. Why'd you marry him if you don't want to bang him? Like, come on, dude. You know what I'm saying? And so this is such a like an easy one to do because it should be fun. But so many people don't do it. They're not good at it. They're not learning how to get better at it. They're not learning how to please their partners. They don't do things for the other person. You know what I mean? Guy's not trying to please, like, I don't know. Guy's not trying to be better at this. He's not figuring it out. She's not it's just so stupid. This one is stupid. And it's something I have a hard time understanding because I don't get into relationships with women unless we're banging. I don't really understand it. You know what I mean? Like, friendships, obviously, and platonic, but non-platonic, you're in a non-platonic relationship, you're not banging. I mean, there was a point where I had that happen to me like years ago, and I solved that problem, and I decided right then I'm never going to get into this problem again. And guess what? I never did. It's been a long time that I've never had that problem. I had that problem one time, and I solved it. Never had the problem again. The problem of the sex going down and then being in a situation where sex is a problem. Sex has not been a problem since I decided. All I had to do as a man, this is all you have to do as a man, is decide that this isn't going to be a problem anymore. Once you decide that, then the problems you're having with the sex, they're going to solve themselves. I'm not saying they do it overnight, but they will solve themselves either because you're out of that sexless, shitty relationship or because she is banging you enthusiastically in the relationship, right? You're solving it. Once you solve it, you'll never not solve it. It's one of those things. Now, you may need some tools and some skills in order to solve it, which is why, again, schedule an appointment with me. Okay. Let's talk about a coaching program. Let's get you into something. But this should not be a problem, but it's such a problem. It's a big problem. All right. Now, I say this and people are like, he's just a crazy sex person, crazy sex guy, just wants to, he's a pervert guy. Come on. Because they don't understand how important this is or whatever. It's just all bullshit. So much bullshit. So much mental gymnastics and just ego protecting stuff. You know? Like most of these anyway, most couples will think like, oh, the relationship's falling apart because they've gotten busy, they've gotten stress and this and maybe the kids or it's work. And then we have these communication problems. No, those aren't the problems. Your communication problems, they're not the problem. That's a symptom. I mean, you may have communication problems, but it's a symptom. It's a symptom of something else. It's a symptom, not the cause. The real breakdown is because you're not fucking each other. You're not doing it well. And that's not something that you're offering each other on a regular enough basis or on an intense enough basis, right? Women are settling with guys who are not banging them as well as other guys have in their past. And the guys that they've settled with aren't interested in getting any better at it. So a woman's not that motivated or interested. She's with, the number 5 on her list of sexual experiences. She married that guy. And that guy doesn't even know it. He's walking around because there's no integrity. We don't have the previous standard of integrity for these relationships. So she's not telling them the truth. He doesn't want to know the truth. He's just walking around going, oh, we said I do. She loves me. Oh, maybe if I clean the kitchen more, she'll touch my wiener. And she's like, he's the fifth guy on my list to have sex with. There's 5 other guys I would have sex with before my husband. That's what she's thinking. So why the fuck would she bang you? She doesn't want to. Okay? She doesn't want to because she's not the guy that she wants to bang. And you don't even know it. You won't accept it because your ego's too fragile. Instead of accepting it, take your fucking medicine and then figure out, how am I going to get better at this? Or maybe I dump her and find somebody who sees me differently. Like, maybe it's a combination of both, but instead of attacking the problem, you just want to be lied to. You see how these 13 standards are a lot more difficult. They sound obvious, but when you dig into them, you realize, wow, people really aren't doing these things because they're a lot harder than they sound on paper. Like, to be truthful and have honesty, that means if you're not her sexual best, she would have to tell you. That means if you're not the sex is not at the level that it needs to be, she has to express that to you. You have to find that out. You have to want to see where that is. If she's not having sex with you at the level that you want, you have to have a conversation about that. These are conversations people don't like having. And then their relationship blows up and they wonder why. I don't wonder why. I know exactly why. And a lot of times it blows up because you're not fucking enough. That's the simple thing. So you're not fucking enough and it's not good enough when you do it. It's both. It's quality as well as quantity. And women tend to think if we just do it once a month, but it is really high quality by my shitty standards of a woman who doesn't know her own body and who has to orgasm from vibrators. Yeah, you know what I mean? That's not going to cut it. Okay. And then guys think, well, if I can just nut in her every day for 2 minutes, then that should be good, right? No, it's not good. It has to be both. It has to be quality as well as frequency. And that if you started off with high desire to begin with, this isn't a problem in the beginning. But what happens is over time, it becomes a problem. That's the biggest thing. So the thing is, if you don't start off with a high sexual attraction and energy, this relationship's not going to work. Okay. And let me break down why from a scientific level. Alrighty. It's not just because I'm a strange pervert on the internet who wants people to have sex more, because that's so terrible. It's because it's science. It's because you have a bonding mechanism in your neurochemistry. Love, the whole love thing, which is a container word, nobody knows what it means. From a scientific perspective, love is the bonding, which is a series of neurochemicals that respond in your brain to this other person that makes you feel the love feelings, makes you feel horny for them as well as in love with them. Okay, both of those, they're all attached together. They're all linked. All right. So pair bonding is the word they use in the literature. Not your weird definition of pair bonding. Pair bonding is the word they use to say that you are having a neurochemical feelings of being bonded with that person. Okay. Women especially bond through oxytocin. You guys, you have vasopressin. So you'll bond with a woman who doesn't like you and doesn't want to touch your wiener, and you'll feel a sense of duty towards her. This is why guys stay in sexless marriages. They stay because they love her. They want to, it's all the things to try to protect her. That's how a guy bonds, with vasopressin as well as oxytocin and beta endorphin plays a role over time. Okay. But that's what happens. For a girl, though, girl doesn't have vasopressin for you. All she has is the comfort feeling, the beta endorphin over time, as well as the oxytocin. But oxytocin is fleeting. Oxytocin goes away if you don't do things to stimulate it. All right. And so you have to do things to stimulate oxytocin in her brain, or she will not maintain those feelings of love for you. Oxytocin is that hormone that makes her trust you, makes her feel the love feelings, makes her want to be close, makes her feel attached and safe with you. All right. She won't have that because it's a fleeting thing unless you do things to stimulate it. It goes away naturally, is what I'm trying to tell you. If you do nothing, it goes away. Now, women, what are women motivated with? What causes women to do things? Emotions, right? So in the beginning, when you're new, she has horniness and it's very dopamigenic, and then she gets the physical contact and the touch. And if you know halfway of what, if you have a half of an idea of what you're doing in the bedroom, then she gets to orgasm with you too on top of it. And then she feels a bonding feeling. Now, if she went through 100 guys before you, that bonding feeling is going to be harder to stimulate. That's the problem with notches. I've done other videos on it. But regardless, the sexual thing, the physical touch, and sex, intercourse, orgasms, that is the biggest stimulant of oxytocin there is for her. Okay? The largest stimulant. When you stimulate and spike the oxytocin serum levels in the blood are higher over time. But if you stop stimulating that oxytocin, those serum levels come down and they come right back down to a level of a single person. That's when she doesn't feel those love feelings so much for you. Okay? So what do you have to do to get those things to happen, to spike those feelings? Well, you have to do a lot of things, but you have to do sex. Sex is the main thing that does it. The closeness before and after, closeness the next day, even physical touch, that does it too. The way you talk to each other, you see, it's a compounding effect. But the compounding effect doesn't have anything to compound off of if you're not having intercourse. Or you see what I mean? Now, there's a whole thing about desiring intercourse. This is a whole nother discussion because it's already a long video. For those who abstain from sex until marriage, because it's dopamigenic and they haven't had it yet, there can be an oxytocin stimulant there, with also the dopamine stimulant with the anticipation of sex, which is why they rush in to get married. So religious people tend to get married faster because they want to fuck each other. Okay, that's really what it is. And that's okay. It's not a criticism. I'm just making an observation. All right. So they're holding off and abstaining till sex, till marriage. They tend to get married faster, younger, earlier because they want to fuck each other. And then once they start fucking each other, though, all that dopamine stuff is being satisfied and the oxytocin's happening. But then what happens is you get to know the person. So when you get to know the person and the beta endorphin comfort sets in, there's less of a dopamine stimulant to have sex. So then the sex starts to go down. Why? Because you guys have the girl controlling the sex, which is most of you. Most of you, the woman dictates when and how sex will happen, not you as a man, which is not a universal. It doesn't have to be true, by the way. It's not my relationship. She doesn't dictate. My girlfriend doesn't dictate the sex. I do. But that's a very rare circumstance. You have to have a high level of game to get her to consensually basically sign off or co-sign you as the power of attorney, okay, of her sexual decisions, which you need, by the way. That's actually my suggestion. It's very controversial, but it shouldn't be. The woman is literally signing off the, the power of attorney over her sexual decisions to you. I mean, not really actually signing a piece of paper, but figuratively speaking, she is handing over the responsibility and of sex to you. You are the person. who is not only responsible for it, but also has the authority over it. You see? So she gives that authority to you. Most of you guys, like 99% of you guys, the girl is dictating sex. You may lie to yourself and say she's not, but wait till she has a headache, right? She's dictating sex. She's the one who's deciding, not you. And that's a problem already. This is the reason the shit breaks down. This is a standard you need to have immediately. Okay. And if you don't, good luck to you. All right. Now it may not have to be as like extreme sub dom or dom sub as my relationship, but it has to be a standard where she can't use and leverage sex against you. Okay. Because scientifically, this is the bond. This is what stimulates the emotions. So back to that, women are driven by their emotions, right? So what happens? In the beginning, there's all the dopamine of a new person and good stress, like, norepinephrine and a little adrenaline, right? That makes her feel all the anticipation and want for the new guy, okay? Then she starts having sex with you. What happens? You become familiar. Beta endorphin kicks in. She becomes comfortable. That's okay. You need that for a long-term relationship. It can't be all dopamigenic all the time. Those are high toxic relationships usually, and they don't last. She does need to have some comfort with you, right? She does need to have those things. But then what has to happen? Well, there's no feeling in her brain then to like stimulate and make sex happen. She doesn't necessarily, she only feels like she wants to have sex then during and around ovulation. And then a lot of the rest of the month, she's just not feeling like it. And then, so it starts off where is a typical degradation of what should be a good relationship. Two people get together, they desire each other. They desire each other. They start banging each other all the time. So it's like multiple times a day, right? Like they're all over each other. Honeymoon phase. Then they get familiar. That starts to drop off to maybe every day instead of multiple times a day. Then it's a few times a week. But then as it drops off, there's less stimulation to keep it going. So a few times a week, throw in some stress. They don't have they're too comfortable. So they don't have those dopamine feelings to bang each other because they're just comfortable with each other. So they let stress take over. They let this thing, that thing. Now they're not having sex as much. Now a couple times a week turns into once every couple of weeks. And that turns into once a month. Now they're effectively in a sexless marriage at once a month. Happens all the time, happens at a high percentage levels. Most people have experienced this short term, and then maybe they fixed it. A lot of people, though, have experienced this indefinitely. Many of you listening to this right now have been or are in a sexless marriage right now. That's what happens. Because you let her brain, what you did was you let the girl's emotions dictate your sexual activity. And her emotions are designed to let this sexual activity erode over time, which means less oxytocin. The less sex you're having, the less quality sex, I'll say, that you're having, the less oxytocin stimulates in her brain and the less desire she has. So her brain is designed to get comfortable with you, stop seeking sexual opportunities, stop saying yes to sex, and then it just erodes over time. And next thing you know, she doesn't have that desire for you. Now she's bored. Now she's wondering, well, what's the next thing we're going to do? I feel I love him, but I just don't, something's missing. This is what you get when you let her dictate sex. Ladies who are listening to me, for the ladies that are fortunate enough to hear the stream, this is going to sound really like counterintuitive to you. You need to give up sexual control completely. Not to just any fucking guy on the street, not to the crackhead that you run into when you're downtown or something, but to like a guy you trust. When you trust the guy, when you feel that emotional bond, when you know he's the right guy, you need to give up all of your sexual authority to him. All of it. The Bible says it. It does. All right. I don't have it at my fingertips, but the Bible does tell you to do that. But of course, modern Christian tradcons who run a feminist brand with a traditional conservative outfit on, that's all it is traditional conservative marketing for feminism. Those Christians are dominating the church right now, and they will disagree with that statement, but they're wrong. If you're following the Bible, if you're following the Quran, okay, if you're following principles of Judaism, even, okay, um, guess what? A woman surrenders to the guy and gives up her sexual authority to her husband. That's what happens. Okay. So in a long-term relationship, when it's the right guy, the woman needs to give up all of her sexual authority to the guy. That needs to be your fucking standard, which 99% of you don't have that right now. And so that's problematic. It's very problematic because if you don't have that standard, what happens is she's in charge of the sex. None of this 50-50 bullshit equality stuff either, because equality just means that she's in charge. Understand that. What happens is, okay, you're both making the decision. Well, when she feels any type of way, that makes the decision for you. If she's horny and says yes, then okay. If she doesn't feel like it that day, then it's a no. How is that making the decision together? It's not making the decision together because you can't negotiate it. As a guy, you can't be like, I know you don't feel like it that day, but like, maybe we could do it anyway. Like, let me negotiate. Like, it doesn't, you can't negotiate it. You have to seduce her. You can't negotiate sex. You have to seduce sex from her, right? In a sense. But she has to give up that authority to you after a point for the long-term relationship to work. You know what I mean? And this is very counterintuitive and very scary for women who have been trained their whole lives to think that men are terrible. So women who are trained by gynocentrism, trained by feminism, think that all men are shit. And therefore, giving the man control over the sex is this terrible idea, which will make her this horrible sex slave and saddled with having terrible sex. And she's, what is she, a prostitute? I'm not, whatever. You can just imagine and think about all of the dumb things that are come out of the ladies' mouths at the prospect or idea that they have sex with their husbands or they have sex with their long-term relationship companion. At that mere idea or thought, it stimulates so much visceral reaction from so many women. And the reality is, without it, you're fucking failing. You're done. That's the reality. Can't be successful. Okay. It's not gifts. It's not date nights. It's not this corny bullshit you guys do. It's fucking, okay, orgasms, physical intimacy, physical touch, skin to skin contact, and all of the flirting and all of the banter and all the warm stuff afterwards and the after sex snack or joint or cigar, in my case, cigar, or whatever you're doing. All of those things add up. It's all surrounded by the physical act of orgasming with this other person and all those things. That is stimulating a massive amount of oxytocin, which keeps the desire going. Without it, you don't have it. Okay. Duty sex once a month or once every couple of weeks is not stimulating enough oxytocin. Enthusiastic, frequent sex is the only thing that does. Okay. And the more you do it, the more addicting it becomes for her and for you. And then you maintain that desire. It's really such a simple formula. Just bang more. It's such a simple formula. Where are all the therapists telling you to do this? Most of them are not. Most of them go to couples therapy and bitch about how the guy's not doing enough or whatever it is. And it's just nonsense. Bunch of mental gymnastics and bullshit from two people who've lost desire for each other. Excuse me, God. Got this things with my lungs going on. Anyway, It's I talk all day, so what are you gonna do? So this sexual neglect happens, and it just destroys everything. So here's the thing. This, you have to have a free use standard. I'm not talking like free use pornography category, although it's similar. It's similar. It doesn't look like that category. I don't imagine. I don't really watch pornography, so I'm not sure what it looks like. But I've heard of the. Someone notified me when I came with the word free use that that's a porn category. Um, it's like, yeah, like okay, cool, but I imagine it's similar. I don't know. But free use means no one says no to each other. So, like, the standard in the relationship needs to be no one says no to sex. Nobody does. All right. You show up for each other sexually, you prioritize intimacy. Okay. And you stay available for that person. Now, you can't say no, but you can express how you're feeling. So, what does that look like? Okay, so there's a legitimate reason, like I have diarrhea and I'm going to poop myself. Okay, that could be one. Okay, maybe. I have a stomach flu, and if we have sex, I'm going to throw up all over the place. Maybe that's real. Okay, but then you're not saying no. You're saying she's not saying no. She's saying I have a stomach flu or whatever. She may not need to say that because you, as a guy, because remember, she picked a good guy, and hopefully that's you. You're paying attention to how she's feeling. See, when you have this is the thing that women need to understand too. When you're the man and you have the authority over the sex, then you, because of your vasopressin, pay attention to her. If you feel like she's not going to really enjoy sex that much today because of something going on with her, then you're probably not going to have sex with her that day. You're probably going to give it a break. You know what I mean? You're not just after whatever. You'll save it for tomorrow morning. You'll save it for the next day. You'll save it for a better time. If you're not feeling like she's feeling it as a guy, when you have the authority, you're probably not going to just force her into it. Right. And so that's the other part about it. All right. With authority comes that responsibility too. All right. You guys both prioritize and derive enjoyment. Don't pick a girl who doesn't enjoy pleasing you. Don't pick a girl who's just there as a warm body, there to receive whatever sexual interest you have, but has not really much of an interest in an eagerness to please you. If she's not eager to please you, she probably doesn't desire you that much. There's probably a guy in her past that she was eager to please, and you're not him. So don't get in a relationship with her. Okay. But some girls are just wired to not want to please a guy. Well, you don't get in a long term relationship with her. Okay. She has to change that or she doesn't get your commitment because you are needing to please her. You need to be wired to do that. You're not going to do this marriage where you escape to porn, she escapes to her vibrator or her shower head, and nobody's banging anymore. That's normally what happens, but that's not going to be your relationship. If you expect it to be successful, you have this as a very serious standard. You take it very seriously. And as a guy, I just don't, I don't know. I think you should only have to go through a sexless relationship where you're in this conflict one time before you ever do it again. Like, I don't know. Some guys seem to want to love punishment, misery, but like you should, if you've done this once, if you did that sexless marriage thing, why would you ever do it again? Like, why would you ever do that again? That seems crazy to me. So, like, and anyways, you got to understand keeping desire alive is a drive, it's a purpose. It's not something that's going to happen on accident. Okay. You have to do this intentionally. And your standard for the relationship is she understands this and she has to be willing to do it intentionally too. Now, when a girl sees you as the best that she can do, this is not a hard thing to instill. In the beginning of the relationship, it's easy to instill. When the feeling of letting the frequency drop off is happening for her, but she is given the authority up to you and she says yes anyway, even if she's not in the mood, there is no mood. You just do it anyway. And then what happens is she's not in the mood, but she does it anyway. Once she gets into it, things start to feel good. She ends up having an orgasm because you know what you're doing, hopefully as a guy. If not, remember that community link I talk about? Get there, ask questions. But if you sexually know what you're doing as a guy, you guys got good sex together. When she's not in the mood, guess what? She's still going to have an orgasm. She's still going to be happy. It's still going to stimulate oxytocin. And it's great. Maybe it's not like the Michelin 5-star restaurant, but pizza's good some days, right? Like that's kind of how sex is. Sex is just like good food. Some is better than the other, right? The lower level of sex that you're having shouldn't be bad sex. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a quickie, sometimes it's an all-nighter. Like you get what I'm saying. All right. And so, yeah, you have diverse and different experiences. This is a whole topic. Like this video is already fucking too long to begin with. But this is something that you need to have as a priority. And this is the biggest thing that goes away. This is things people push back on. This is the thing women push back on. And women push back on this because they want to use sex for power. That's why women want to, most people in relationships haven't sorted out the polarity and the power dynamic, which is another bullet point I'll be getting to. And so they haven't sorted it out. So what they're doing is they're just in a relationship that's transactional and they're fighting each other for power. And the biggest weapon a girl has in that fight for power in these transactional relationships that all these idiots are promoting, what's her biggest weapon? The biggest weapon she has is sex. So in a transactional relationship, she's not giving up her power with sex to you. She's not giving that authority up because she wants to use it, whether it's do things for you sexually or take away things. And usually it's take away sex in order to get you to do what she wants. She modifies your behavior with the dangling of the carrot of sex. Most women don't understand how to have a relationship without doing that. They've never experienced it. They've never seen it. They've never been trained. So, but that's a recipe for disaster. If a woman is using sex for power, using that carrot dangle, right, to get you to do what she wants, what's going to happen is she's going to have sex with you less and less. She's going to desire you less and less. Her respect will go away for you. And that's going to be it. You're going to be in a shitty marriage. Congratulations. So you can't let her have power over this. Both of you have to agree and submit to the power of the frame of the relationship with you as a leader, that sex is something you share, you put effort into. If you're not feeling it, so what? Figure it out. You know what I mean? Figure out, you felt it before, so you start figuring out how to feel it again. You know what I mean? If you just do it and you put effort into it, and you recognize that your attraction is something you need to manage, not just something the other person needs to do, it's going to work out a lot better. So what does this mean though, right? So no one says no. You care about the other person's pleasure. Here's a big one. How about all these people who get unattractive once they get married or whatever? That whole thing is eliminated by this standard. See, if you know that you're going to be fucking each other as a standard, then you will maintain your attractiveness to each other so the other person will want to sleep with you. That's part of the standard, is to put effort into the sexual relationship, which includes not just frequency and intensity, but includes maintaining your appearance, maintaining your hygiene, the way that you smell, showing up and being an attractive person. She's not going to gain 100 pounds if she understands she has to be sexy for you. She has to wear the right clothing, do the right things to be sexy so that you want to bang her. And that also means maintain a good level of fitness, maintain a good body weight. And guess what? You as a man, you need to be doing all of those things as well. But that's a no-brainer if you guys are having a sex life. When sex is this optional thing that just erodes away, what else erodes away? The motivation to maintain your appearance and attractiveness for the other person as well. So you see how this is all tied together. So what do you think I should put on the list? Go to the gym. That's a standard or whatever, right? How about fuck each other? And fucking each other and being sexually enthusiastic about each other and taking that seriously is the standard. What else? What's she going to do? She's going to go to the gym or do yoga at the house or eat properly, right? Like all of those things are going to happen. When you have frame, you don't have these other problems that all these internet people talk about for your clickbait engagement. You know what I mean? All right, that's enough about sex, but you guys got the point. Okay. And so many women want to resist this point. Well, I would argue and say to those women, it's because they're not with a guy who they would feel, who they really feel like they can surrender their sexual authority to. When a woman is with a guy who blows her mind sexually, they feel like they can surrender that authority to him, provided he checks all the other blocks too, which is meaning, being a good guy to get with, being trustworthy, not being a narcissist, like all the things, right? When a guy is a good, healthy guy and she bonds with him sexually and he blows her mind sexually, most girls don't have as big of a problem as you think of giving up that authority. Okay. But it's the standard you need to have and you need to enforce it. And if you don't, then you're not going to. The default will be she controls the sex. And when that's the default, you're in a struggle now to maintain this desire. Not good. Okay. So don't do that to yourself. Now, why do women resist doing this though also? Because they're using sex for power, as I mentioned. Well, that leads us to number 8 now. Number 8 in our list of 13, I'm going to blow through the rest of these. Number 8 is polarity and role clarity. So, a couple here, I'll move along in my notes because this is really long if I don't. Okay. In a relationship that works, one person is going to lead, another person is going to support. Biologically speaking, that means the man is leading and the woman is supporting because there are biological tendencies and default mechanisms that are there. That's just it. So instead of trying to go against your biology and create some weird feminist utopia of equality that doesn't actually work, that puts the women in a place that she doesn't want to be and makes everybody miserable, let's just go back to what your biology says, okay? A testosterone-driven brain that developed with higher testosterone, read man, okay, is in a position of leadership. A woman with more of an estrogenic brain, which is a woman, okay, is going to be a better support mechanism for that guy who's leading. If you try to reverse those roles, it's going to get fucked up. Okay. That's just the way it goes. So there is no equality. That's not real, but each person is valuable. And I would argue that no one person is more valuable than another because it doesn't matter. Even if on paper and objectively speaking, that were to be true, is there a relationship without two people involved? At least, right? No, there's not. So there's no relationship without the both of you. So don't get hung up on who's more valuable because that's ridiculous. Either somebody is more valuable, then fine, dump the other person and go find somebody who's a better match then if that's an issue. But it shouldn't even be a thought. Okay. It's not about equality. It's not about value. Each person brings value. That's what's important. It's not a measuring contest about who's bringing more value because reality is there is no relationship without the both of you. Okay. And that's all that matters there. So you either bonded and connected and you feel good about each other and you develop that or you don't. But the key is someone has to lead and someone has to support. And if you don't have that, you won't have a relationship. You're going to have a power struggle. Now, guys who are, people are talking about all relationships are transactional, blah, blah. It's a shitty model. It's a terrible model of thing, a terrible way to think about relationships. Even if you could logically reason out that statement, relationships are transactional, to be objectively true, you sound like you're autistic because it doesn't work that way. All right. Desire and feelings and emotions are the reason that you're together. So you can't take that out of the equation. This is not a facts don't care about your feelings situation. Okay. Because the fact is your feelings are the reason you're with somebody. All right. So you have to manage that, maintain that. And that means managing and maintaining that polarity. Okay. All right. To keep desire alive, you have polarity and you don't have power struggles. If you have power struggles, then what happens is there's a devaluation that happens and you stop seeing each other as desirable companions. All right. Leadership is having direction, vision, and stability. Support is her intuition, her emotional attunement, and her doing things to help increase those possibilities of success, right? And so when that polarity dies, the attraction's dead too. She wants to summarize, she wants a dominant guy who she can trust and relax with, who's going to take her in the direction that she needs to go. You need to be that guy. She needs you to accept her role in wanting that and supporting that, not trying to run dominance over the guy that she's with. Now, there's different levels of polarity, like there's different levels of dominance. I run a very dominant situation in my household. Other people might not run as it that way, but there has to be an understanding of where that polarity exists. You know what I mean? So, like, you have to understand those roles. Mainly, she has to be able to accept that the guy is the leader of the relationship. And if she can't accept that, then you shouldn't be together. Most women today can't accept that. They think feminism's the way, and they think, oh, you know what? 50-50, all this bullshit. No, no. Okay. You lead as a guy, and there is clarity about that. And that is the understanding you have. And then when it comes to communicating, you have a formulation, a way of communicating that involves, let's say you run into a decision where you can't, you don't agree. Well, you're going to default to your decision as the leader. And then if it doesn't work, you're going to revisit. Okay. She's there to support you, but you're the final say. And if she can't accept that, there is no relationship. Don't even enter into it. You know what I mean? Really don't. That needs to be the standard. It needs to be the standard that she understands that she's a powerful decision maker in the relationship as well, but you're leading it. Okay. And if it comes to a point where you're in conflict, you can work it out, discuss, talk about the particulars, but eventually you're going to decide and you're going to take action. And that's going to be the decision you make as a man. And she's going to have to support it, even if she doesn't like it. That's her role. A marriage or a long-term relationship cannot work out without this understood dynamic. It just can't. We're not biologically wired towards it. And eventually what will happen is you'll run into a power struggle or a conflict that you can't resolve. And then it erodes away desire and destroys the relationship. Here's what happens to you guys. You get with some woman that seems like she's not a feminist because maybe she's Christian, maybe she's, has feminine qualities. And so you get in a relationship with her and because you think she's great. And then she says things like 50-50 or whatever, you know what I mean? And well, she talks about equality, who knows? She has a mindset of equality. She doesn't understand leadership, but you let it go. You let it slide because you're not conflicting. Biologically, she falls in line with your leadership because it's natural for her to do it. And so you think things are fine. Even though she has this dumb idea in her head, she's complying with your leadership for a while. But then something happens, and that happens maybe a year, 2 years, 3, 4 years later. She hasn't changed her mind about this equality thing. She doesn't recognize that you were in charge. And now you're in a conflict. And it's a conflict you can't resolve. There you go. It's the end of the relationship. You just wasted 4 years of your life. You know what I mean? Sort this shit out early. Okay? Save yourself a lot of heartache. Don't wait until that blow up where she is making her line in the sand because she thinks she's in charge of the relationship. Most of those situations, like I mentioned, are guys who think they're in charge, but they're not. Women are so good at making a man feel like he's in charge when he really isn't. They're very good at that. And most of you guys can't think around that yet. You don't have the tools. You don't have the skills. So Make it easier on yourself and on her and sort this polarity thing out early. If she can't comfortably say, yeah, my husband leads the relationship, my man leads the, you know what I mean? And submit to that leadership, like actually submit to it. She can't actually do that. It's not worth continuing because it won't work. It's going to blow up in your face. So that leads us to number 9. Number 9 is reciprocal effort. Okay. So there is no 50-50, but there's a mutual investment. You can't carry this relationship alone, and neither can she. Okay. So you have to really focus on putting effort into the relationship 100%. And you have to be with somebody who is having that same mindset. So that needs to be a standard reciprocal effort. Okay. Here's the thing. You want to be with somebody who's giving, who gives to the relationship without scorekeeping. Okay. It's not about what am I going to get? This is that transactional thing again. Well, what am I going to get if I make these sacrifices or if I do these things? That shouldn't be what her thought process is. Her thought process needs to be, I'm doing these things because I care about the guy I'm with, and this is what you do. You know what I mean? That's where it needs to be. You know what I mean? So anyway, I was trying to do this fucking notes. Anyway, whatever. I got lost on my notes on Radical. So this is too long. The stream is so long, dude. I'm gonna kill it. Freaking. I can't do 2 parts because nobody gives a shit about 2 parts. Y'all want 1 part. I'm probably gonna just do a shorter version of this thing though, because it's too fucking long. But that's okay. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it though. Hopefully you guys had a lot. Hopefully you guys have. I mean, it's like this is like a damn course. Could open a course on this right now. Well, there's no like. We're not going over like. We're not drilling things though, and drilling skill sets. Unfortunately, then it would be a course. But okay, reciprocal effort. I took on this monster task of going through all this. Like, made the decision the other day. So again, I hope you guys are appreciating and liking the material, even if you have to abandon and come back later, because it is a thanks, man. We believe in you. Thanks. It's like running a marathon right now. All right. Well, good. That inspired me. Thank you. We'll keep going. All right. So anyways, that reciprocal effort. Pick somebody, basically pick a woman who doesn't keep score, who's giving. You have to have that as a standard, okay, or things aren't going to work out well. These other things we can blow through a little bit fast. So the next one is more about compatibility, which is a shared direction and aligned vision, right? So I use this example. It's an easy example. Like, you don't want to get into it with a girl who's like, she wants a kids and wants to get married, and you don't want any of those things. That would be a problem. And maybe her desire for you and the sex and the cool stuff you guys are experiencing makes her ignore her goals and her, her ambitions early on, but it's going to catch up to you. You know what I mean? Now, sometimes you get into short-term dating relationships that are not meant to be long-term relationships because your vision and values just don't align. Maybe you plan on moving to a different country and she wants to be near her family. For example, like sometimes some things can't be reconciled. Maybe you're overseas or you're on vacation and then you meet somebody there and then you have this really cool like thing, but it's long distance and there really is no plan or motivation to like, you're just not going to integrate your lives. And maybe there's other things that aren't compatible. I mean, that's fine. Okay. That means that you're not going to commit to that person though. Right. Like if things don't align, if your values don't align and your vision does not align, then you're not going to be able to make things work for 30, 40 years. Now, the unfortunate thing though, is many of you guys don't have the talk when it comes down to the commitment of where you guys are going in the future. What do you guys want for the future? You know, idealistically, you have a girl who just wants to support you and do whatever you want pretty much. Idealistically, her goal is just to be with you. And do whatever things she can do to provide value to the world while she's doing that. And she doesn't care where she lives or she doesn't care about some of these other things. That would be the perfect scenario. But that's not always the scenario. It's not even often the scenario. A girl will, when she desires a guy and sees the guy as her best, she will give up a lot of her previous thoughts of what she wanted. That's part of her getting into your frame. You know what I mean? Is once her desire is there, she will change her mind about things that she wanted in the past. Remember, like her milestones and values and beliefs, those things all develop prior to meeting you. Once you come into her life and blow her mind, okay, those things are subject to change. Okay, her ideas of what to do in her life they're all coping strategies to not having the right guy. So you have to understand that. If she has not had you, and if you're the guy who's her best and the guy she needs to be with, the guy she wants to be with, then everything she thought about for her life that she wanted, those are all just copes. These are the things she wants as a coping strategy for not having that dominant masculine presence in her life and the right guy in her life. Once you come into her life, well, now she's got to sort through her values and decide what are these things or which of these things I thought were important are really important and which aren't. You know what I mean? So her ideas of things that she wants oftentimes changes when she's with you, if she's in high desire for you, which is totally normal, reasonable. But the thing is, by the time you guys really start to build a future together, you have to have an idea and a shared vision. She can't be off of the reservation in her own frame with her own ideas, and you're sitting here trying to lead a relationship. You know what I mean? Her ideas need to match the frame of the relationship. They need to match your ideas. So that's number 10, and that is a non-negotiable standard. That's the frame you have to have as a shared belief in where you guys should be going and how you guys should be handling big decisions, for example, lifestyle, money, family, your polarity roles, ambition, loyalty, the nature of the commitment. Are you guys going to be totally monogamous? Are you guys going to get married in a church? Are you guys not going to get married? Are you guys going to have a threesome every now and then? Are you going to have side bitches or side bitches not allowed? You know what I mean? Like, seriously, I know it sounds crazy, but these things need to be sorted out. Do you know what I mean? And you have to be aligned in these ideas, because if you're not, you're going to run into a problem, and that problem could potentially destroy your relationship you're putting effort into. So number 10 here is shared vision and aligned values. Number 11 is loyalty to the relationship over outsiders. Okay, so the relationship, there are things that only you and her should experience and share. That means that other people don't get to see those. Other people don't experience those things. Some of those things are sexual, but not all of them. Some of the secrets you share with each other should only be shared between you two. That means her mother doesn't know about it, her dad, her friends. Okay, like so many of you guys get in these relationships, and all of her goofy, dumbass friends know every detail about your relationship. And then they're giving their stupid opinions, and then that's directing how she shows up in the relationship. It's just dumb. It's dumb, and don't do it. That should not be. That's violating your standards, or it needs to be a violation of your standards. Okay? She has to have loyalty to you over her friends, over her family. And that's correct. Over her friends, over her family. That doesn't mean she cuts them off or anything, unless she has to, because if they're crazy or toxic or whatever, that might be something she needs to do. But it's not to isolate her from people, but it's like the loyalty is to the person that you're building a life with. I mean, it's different if you're just dating, obviously, but if you're in a serious relationship or a marriage and you plan on lasting the distance, that person you're with is your number one person, and everybody else is fucking another number. Okay. You, even your kids, you're raising kids together. That's what you're doing. That doesn't, they're different categories. It's not like you love one, it's a different kind of love, right? Hopefully, better be. But you're raising the kids together, which means your loyalty starts with the parents. And then parents, you don't have one parent siding with a kid and the other parent, not. So you know what I mean? That actually happens in a lot of families where mom will side with the daughter, then they'll fight, they'll, bitch at the dad. Like, no, absolutely not. Your loyalty is to the person that you are with, or else it can't work. You're going to run into these massive problems. And that means that it's not a public forum. Your relationship is not a public forum where you talk about every detail on your social media or other people. So many women have no boundaries with this, and you need to train her to have them, or don't be in a relationship with her. Okay. She needs to be able to, you need to protect the relationship, and she needs to protect it. And you do that with your loyalty. There is no, I'm going to go hang out with an ex, someone I used to bang a lot. I'm going to go meet them for lunch. No, you're fucking not. That is a violation of loyalty in the relationship. If you expect it to last long term, that's not even a discussion. You see what I mean? That's not even a thought process. And you, by the way, as a guy, you need to be true to your standards as well. You're not secretly texting some ex bitch on the side and lying to your girlfriend. Okay. You expect her to behave with these standards. You got to do it too. You know what I mean? If loyalty to the relationship over outsiders is the standards, then you have to behave with it, and you have to enforce it. And if she's not willing, most girls have no clue what that loyalty looks like. And so you're going to have to teach her that probably during the dating phase. And if she can't figure it out, it's probably not going to work. And so don't get into a long-term relationship with her. Do not get into a relationship with someone who's not willing to protect the relationship and protect the bond, right? With good boundaries and standards with other men, for example. All of her guy friends, okay? She needs to have good boundaries and standards with those guy friends. There needs to be, those guy friends are your friends, or they're not friends at all, right? And there's a boundary and a standard with handling those guys, with handling women and men in your social circles. When somebody is trying to violate your relationship, you're not teaming up with that person. She's not teaming up with the girlfriend who's bitching about you, and she's going, oh, I know he's such a dick, and oh, I know he's that way. Well, har har har, girlfriend, aren't men shitty? Okay, like, that's not what you're doing with your dumb girlfriends, ladies and guys. Your girlfriend's not doing that, because that's violating the loyalty of the relationship. And you're not doing that. Guys usually don't do this shit, but they're not doing that either. You know what I mean? You're not bitching about her and whatever. That shit really rarely happens. Girls think that happens. Like, a lot of women think that this happens with guys all the time, but it really doesn't. Guys aren't out there just fucking bitching about the girls they're with. I mean, they have their bitches, but they're not like, they're not devaluing. The more devaluing tends to happen with girls who team up to bitch about their men. And this is a violation of the frame of the relationship, a violation of the loyalty standard. Okay. And so you need to enforce that and not enter into these agreements with women, these commitments where that loyalty isn't understood. All right. Now, this is an interesting one too. It's kind of another left turn, but it's important to mention, which is there's identity preservation. You're not doing self abandonment, because, so what I mean by that, like, okay, you have to preserve. This is a great question. I'll get to your question. RB 92834. Like, bunch of numbers. I'll get to your question in a second, man, because it's a really good one. So, number 12, identity preservation. In other words, you as a man, you have your mission, you have your passions, okay? You have the things that interest you, you have the things that make you who you are. All right? You're not going to give those things up because you're in a relationship now. That would be fucking retarded. And so many guys do it though. You're not going to give up your friends. You're not going to give up your family. On the one hand, this is why like these see there's a logical progression to the way I numbered these. Loyalty to your relationship is utmost important, and you put that loyalty over like your friends and family. That being said, though, you still have your friends and family. You're not required to abandon these people now, unless, again, if they're toxic people who shouldn't be in your life, then you will abandon them. But you're going to do that because of that reason, not because of your relationship. You know what I mean? So you have to, you still have your friends, you still have your family, you still have your passion, you still have your purpose. And so does she. Okay, so does she. She is, doesn't shouldn't be required to not have her friends anymore. Now, if her friends are toxic and they're shitty people, then maybe she needs to limit her involvement with those people. A lot of women find out the unfortunate fact that their friends are shitty people once they get into a relationship with a good guy. A lot of women, when they find themselves in a relationship with a good guy, they find out that their girlfriends are a lot shittier than they realized. And because women are very motivated by social circles, they run into that conflict of, do I abandon my friends? That's a tough decision for a girl to make. But you as a guy should not require her to abandon all these people in her life. You require her to place your relationship above all of these people, though. You require loyalty, but you don't require her to abandon everybody in her life. An abusive thing, actually. That's what cults do. That's what abusive relationships do. They isolate. And a lot of women are abusive as well, where they use emotional manipulation tactics in order to isolate a man from his social circles. Happens all the time. And guys do it too to women. And they, unfortunately, physically abusive guys will often use physical intimidation to do it as well. And so it's a thing that happens, and you can't do that. There has to be a standard that, you still maintain some autonomy and some identity as a human being. Just because you're in frame and there's a frame in the relationship that she is following and submitting to, that doesn't mean she's not her own person. That doesn't mean that she, you know what I mean? That she doesn't have her own ideas and passions and hobbies and things that she likes and things that entertain her. And, she has to have those things, and you have to let her have them, and you have to support them, and you have to try. Let's say you don't like her family that much. Let's say that's just it, right? Well, it's her fucking family. You have to try to maintain, it doesn't mean that we put her family above the relationship or whatever, but maybe you're going to put effort into trying to keep a good relationship with her family so that, she can have her parents and she can have her family. I mean, we're assuming, of course, it's not so toxic and abusive that she needs to leave the family. Like if it was that scenario, that's different. But most of those scenarios aren't like that. Most of those scenarios are like the parents are kind of assholes. Maybe there's a brother or a sister that's an asshole, and you guys get together for holidays and stuff. She needs to protect you from those assholes and stand up to them and say, hey, this is the guy I'm with. We're not going to create, what I mean? She needs to do those things to keep the peace, but you need to put effort in too. You need to put in that effort into, doing the things that are going to make her be able to have the relationships easier, even though she's with you. It takes a team effort. You know what I mean? You can't be this fucking guy who's like, oh, well, screw them. I don't like her sister. I'm not going over for Thanksgiving. No, maybe she talks to her sister and you come over to support the girl you're with. And her sister just is on good behavior and everything is fine. Maybe you use these persuasion skills I teach on the sister. Don't bang the sister though. But you know what I'm saying? Use it on the sister to get to a level where maybe you have a little bit better relationship. Maybe you made a bad impression on her parents. That happens. Maybe you put in effort to change that impression because her family, her friends, these things are important. Okay? The things that she likes, maybe she has a hobby and you guys get married and she has this thing that she really loves to do. Maybe you support that as her husband. And maybe she should support your thing you do. You like going to the gym, you like going to boxing class or whatever. Maybe she's supportive instead of crying about it because you're going to boxing twice a week or whatever it is. You know what I mean? This identity preservation needs to be a standard, and you help each other preserve each other's identities too. Okay. Now we get to the last one, which is productive conflict, no destructive fighting. This is the Luca thing. I'm writing a book on this. Don't know when it's going to be done. Okay. I need my first book to be like a banger, and then I'll publish the second one the other ones I already have written. All right. So I'm doing a banger ass book eventually on Luca. Stay tuned for that. It's going to be several months before that's out. But with that, productive conflict management, no stonewalling, no scorekeeping, no four horsemen things, the criticism, contempt, defensiveness. This falls in line with arrogance, right? You guys got to fight right. There's a whole book by Gottman called Fight Right. It's a pretty good book, actually. You can get that book. That'll cover a lot of things. Won't cover everything I'm going to talk about in my Luca book, but it's a good book to add to your library. The Gottman book, Fight Right. Okay. This is number 13. You have to be able to handle the conflicts you guys have in a healthy way. All right. So that's the one I'm sort of ending the list with. But that's none of these. There's not a single one on this list that is more or less important. Okay. They're all important. And here I'll do my little share screen as I promised here. As I jangle around. Okay, so here's we go. Here is the slideshow of 13 non-negotiable standards for your relationship. Frame. This is your frame. This is what you have to have. If you don't have this, everything falls apart. I don't think I'm actually missing anything. I might be. This is just something I thought about doing like yesterday. But I think it's pretty complete. All right. So number 1, respect. 2, forget. I'm not even going to read it all. You guys can look. You guys can expand your screen there. You guys can screenshot this. Why don't you screenshot it right now if you're watching this on a phone? Okay. This is all your bullet points. And I will eventually, within the next 24 hours, have chapter breaks in this video so you can reference them. I'll probably have shorter videos to summarize all these because this is a long fucking video. But this live stream's long. But at any rate, here they all are. Okay. You can't have a relationship work without these. If any one of these is missing, you're screwed. Okay. So in that respect, one isn't necessarily more important than the other. But I will say having the things like, all right, so sexual integrity and desire maintenance makes this whole thing a lot easier over time. Okay, not just in the beginning, but over time. If you do number 7, all these things become easier. If you have just a standard of respect, forgiveness, accountability, gratitude, radical integrity. So like really 1 through 7 makes 8 through 13 a lot easier. All right. And they're easy. Like gratitude's easy. Being respectful, easy. Honestly, fucking each other is pretty easy too, isn't it? Like sex with the person you're with that you decided to be with because you thought they were hot. That should be an easy one. Most of these are not super hard, but as you notice as I go through and how they're structured, people don't do them all the time. People fail to do these because when you get into it, It's actually not as easy as some of these are not as easy as they look because they require you to really look inside of yourself and to really become a better person. And I think that's the thing there. I think that's why a lot of these relationships don't work out because, you know, people aren't better people than they should be. People need to become better people. You as a man, you need to become a better person. And I don't mean just better as like a good boy or a nice guy, but like a more capable, better, positive, masculine version of yourself. You need to be better. And women need to be better too. And I think, if you have two shitty people who are failing in so many areas of their life, they lack self awareness and they come together to be in a relationship, well, of course, the 13 things I mentioned, they're not going to get done, are they? They're going to fuck up every single one of them. If you get one person who's working on being better, but then he saddles himself with a woman who isn't interested in being better and isn't trying to change her life, improve herself, and she has all these bad habits, traumas, toxic behaviors, you think it's going to work out? Is she going to maintain that frame? No, she's not. She might need to be dating you in order to inspire her to become better. That might be a real thing. But at the end of the day, though, if you don't align with these 13 standards, if you don't have this frame, there's other things in your frame too that need to be there. But if you don't have these 13 minimally, this is like the definitive list. If you have these 13, you have probably almost 100% chance of your relationship working. If you have all 13 of these, your relationship will work. If you don't have these, if you're missing one consistently, I mean, having a bad day is one thing, but if you're missing one of these standards, it will not work. I've done this a long time, guys. Done this a long time with thousands of people. I've seen thousands of relationships that haven't worked out. And I've seen many relationships, you know, many of them, probably the same amount really, that have seems to be working out. I mean, obviously, time always tells, right? But without these 13 things, you're going to eventually run into a problem. And the sneaky part about it is you could be missing one of these things and not realize you're missing it because you didn't know. And then that doesn't show up as a problem till a year later, 3 years later. You know what I mean? That's the thing, is that these standards might not be something you've ever thought about in your relationship until it becomes a problem. And then you're at an impasse. Then you're at a crisis point. And so there's a lot of crisis points that happened in early on within the first couple of years of relationship. That's why they call it a challenge phase after the honeymoon stuff wears off. You know what I mean? But instead of like going through your relationship, waiting for the next crisis, you can mitigate a lot of that just by reviewing this long ass video I did. And then having these 13 standards in your life and in your relationship, you mitigate these crises. You mitigate running into a problem with an ex that wants to see her. I mean, this is obvious. This should be a crazy example, but it's not because I see it all the time. You're in with a girl and it's 2 years later and an ex wants to meet for lunch. And then you find out that she has shitty boundaries with men, but she never really challenged it before. And now she's insisting on meeting with this ex and she doesn't care about your boundary. And now you have a problem. That happens all the time, these sorts of things. Or you just realize like you're just so used to dealing with entitled women that you just pull her out of her entitlement, argument after argument. But your arguments don't happen very often. They're only happening once every couple months. But then 2-3 years later, all that arrogance adds up. You're arguing more and you can't get her to take accountability for shit. Now you're calling me for a consult. I've been with this girl 3 years. She fails your relationship capability test because she doesn't have accountability. What do I do? It sucks. We try to fix it. Much of the time, though, can't be fixed, guys, to break up. You just wasted, when I say wasted, I mean three years of a learning experience, 3 years of some good times, but it's not the long-term relationship you were hoping for. You know what I mean? Let's avoid all that shit. And let's look at these 13 principles. Let's look at these 13 standards. Let's create frame in your relationship. Okay, where you are in charge. And now let's enforce that into somebody that, into the relationship. You're going to do a relationship with somebody. You're going to do something long-term. You enforce these boundaries. You enforce these standards. They're not negotiable. You work through them because there's some level of training she might need to have and some level of training for yourself as well. So you work through them, but they're not negotiable. Okay, you do them or you don't. If you don't even do the relationship. It's not going to work. All right, going back to some questions. Starting with this one. You are awesome. Thanks, man. Your channel helps me vet out sneaky 304s. They are fucking sneaky. I'm glad I was able to help you with that, man. That's awesome. That's great. All right. More stuff. Thank you for the super as well. Really appreciate it. Okay. If I don't keep going, these bitches will never be held accountable. That's funny. And yeah, that's true. It depended on this 3-hour live stream. Are these things we should be thinking about when we start talking to a girl, or once a few dates have happened and there's a stronger connection? Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm glad you asked it. These are things that it's reticular activating system. So now that you have a list of things, they're in your head. But is it the first thing you think about when you go to talk to a girl? I hope not. First thing you're thinking about is she's hot and I kind of want to bang her, right? That's usually about the first thing you're thinking about. And then you start talking to her and she's like, well, I kind of think she's cool too, whatever. How do I get her on the date? Like, that's, you're thinking about other stuff. You're not thinking about these things that early on. As you progress with her though, yeah, these are things that you're going to want to think about more. So once you decide, and this is where so if you were in my coaching, you were in mastermind. Okay. So what would happen is you would have access to a few different tools. So one of those is a compatibility tool. So it's a list and journaling exercise that helps you determine whether a girl's compatible or not. I say compatible, I mean just lifestyle, values, goals, quirks, things she doesn't do as well as things that she does do, all that stuff. You have things that make you and her compatible or not. And so that's really what you're kind of looking at first is compatibility. And then as you kind of move along, you're looking at, is she capable? So I have also an evaluation you can do on a girl you're dating. It's not really going to do you much good on a first date. You'd have to have some history with her. Seeing her for a few months usually is good. You can do an evaluation and it'll determine whether she's capable of being healthy for a long-term relationship or not. And so these tools come into mind in the beginning. If you were my coaching client, is you're finding a girl who's compatible and you're making sure she's capable. Is she capable of following these 13 standards? Right. And so that's the things you're figuring out in the dating process. But even prior to that, you're not even focused on that. What you're focused on is noticing any egregious red flags or problems in the dating phase. And then also building attraction, building desire, seducing her. Because if a girl is desiring you, that's going to be a different set of behaviors than if she's not. You know what I mean? So you're focused in the beginning, like your first few dates prior to sleeping with her is usually focused on seduction and building desire. And then you're just learning about her with no judgment whatsoever. You're not sitting here with a checklist in your head. You're just learning about her. Your judgment-free zone, letting her tell you, asking good questions and figuring her out and making things fun and connecting with her so that she is seduced by you. And then you guys end up having sex, right? And seduction happens usually early in most cases. And then you let that go for a while. So there's the seduction process. You have to get her emotionally on board with wanting to do anything with you if she's going to follow a standard. You know what I mean? If you're not somebody that's important in her life, if you just met her, or if you've only been on a date for her, why are you guys going to talking about these standards? She's not going to be that motivated to want to meet any standard that you have because she's not sure about you yet. For a girl, for example, especially the sexual one, for a girl to submit herself sexually to a guy and give that sexual authority to the guy, right? To have that standard, which is very important. She has to see you as the guy that she's trusts in order to be able to do that. The guy that has enough value. You know what I mean? The guy that she really wants. It really doesn't happen unless she sees you as the best she can do. So the seduction is really what's happening in the beginning, while you're also sort of vetting, using those tools of compatibility, using those tools of capability, noticing toxic traits that might crop up. That's what you're doing in the beginning with no commitment. But once you sort it out, if she's a girl who you she desires you, you desire her, desire is being solved, you've seduced her properly, she seems like she's capable of having a healthy relationship, you guys seem compatible. Now you guys start to move into what would be a commitment. She starts probably pushing or wanting that commitment, right? And so now you have to define, what is that commitment? What does that look like? And then what standards do you have? Now you're sort of sorting these standards out at that point. Generally, you're not handing her a checklist. It's just in that process, there's like we'll say a gray area, right? It's a process of courting. It goes from high desire, we're dating, but we have high desire, into, here's the long-term commitment where here, my camera's here. So you go from here to here, and this area in the middle where you start making frame statements. You start opening up discussions about things like respect, or whatever. Now that respect discussion could have cropped up earlier. You know what I mean? Again, when things are in your mind, in your reticular activating system, they tend to show up. You tend to have a conversation and it tends to come naturally. You don't need to checklist it. You know what I mean? But later on, when you're in that gray area, there isn't a commitment yet, but you're moving towards it. Now you start having more discussions that allows you to make a statement of fact or a frame statement. Well, here's how it is for me, or here's how I want things to be if I'm in a commitment, or if we're committed, this is what I would expect. How do you make that statement, and you have those talks and you sort those things out. And so and then some of those things, what's going to happen is she'll say things because it sounds good, but the behavior isn't there yet. So she'll say a thing prior to the commitment, you'll get in the commitment, and then you're running into the behavior problem. That's okay. That's normal. You're going to then work through it, through the communication skills that I give you. All right. If you're in my coaching, you get those skills, but there's Luca videos and stuff on YouTube, right? So you work through those things with that. You might have to, this is the early commitment phase. You'll have to work through it, but at least you've introduced these ideas. They're not like foreign ideas, and the goal is within your first year, you've worked through all this shit. You have it established. So you're not getting any surprises later on. When I say work through it, I don't mean she finds out about the sexual standard a year later. I mean, they got introduced early enough in the commitment within the first, again, not right when you're dating, but within that gray area, and maybe within that first couple months of a commitment before it gets too far. But then there's that period of time where she's really got to assimilate the behavior. That's going to be another several months. So by the time you end up with a year, you have frame in your relationship. She understands the standards, and you guys are doing well. That's idealistically how it should go. That's a really good question, man. That was really good. Let's see what else we got. Cool, man. Thanks. I appreciate your appreciation. And I agree. Thank you. I'm glad that you like it. And I've been going for 3 hours. So now I'm going to I don't know, jump in my lake. My lake is frozen, so I'm going to see if I need to hit it with a chainsaw. I don't know. But I think a cold water plunge is what is in my future. Thanks again, guys, for, jumping into this. I appreciate the support. If you're not in my community, you're fucking up. All right. You really are. Get in the community. I'm dropping that course soon. All these standards and all this shit, they won't matter if you don't have the mental inner game to execute. So you want the mental inner game to execute. That's that course that's going to come out. And I'm telling you, I got, like I said, almost 800 people in the community right now. The course is going to be open to 50 people. All right. So at 50, I'm capping it. So if you're not in the community, if you're not in my email list, you're not going to get the initial invite to enroll and you're going to miss it. That's not good. I don't want you to miss anything. Okay. So we're going to have a lot of fun there and I hope to see you there. So hopefully you're going to click that link now that we're done. And that's it. All right. Talk to you guys later.